What
People don't know the real story.
Right.
Because they weren't there and they don't know, and they didn't get the full description of it. We've been brawling, kicking photographers, laying people out in bars. No one said a word. I mean, I would never allow an election to affect whether I love my brother Alec, whereas he has absolutely allowed that to occur in the family with myself and other members.
Last 5 years have been tough with that guy.
I've had to endure a lot in the last couple of years over his problem that he had.
Was he the better actor? Was he the best actor in the family?
At 7 years old, I was 7, Alec was 9.5, we said, can we use the camera? We lit stuff on fire, we got in trouble. We rolled my mother's car down the driveway.
Do you know specifically people that were on that island, or you know in Hollywood?
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah, I saw some wild stuff. And he was at some of the Diddy parties. He was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman. It was Babylonian, I called it.
More people are getting bolder to put the stuff out about him. What does that mean?
And Stephen would get me in fights. That summer, no, I kid you not. That summer, I got in 7 fights. The next day, I could barely stand up. No, I mean.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to hate. And how they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
So about 2.5 months ago, I did a podcast with a Stephen Baldwin. I got to tell you, I had no idea what to expect. I'm telling Rob, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what direction we're going. And sometimes those turn into the best podcasts. We finish the conversation. I am entertained from the beginning to the end. Then I get a DM. So now Stephen is the youngest brother, okay? Then I get a DM from the second oldest brother, which is Daniel Baldwin.
That's
saying,
right.
Wait a minute, I got to come and set the record straight. And then that led to today us doing a podcast together and having you here.
And I'm so honored to be on the show because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And it's funny, if I close my eyes and listen to your voice and brother's voice, why is it you all sound alike? What is it with this voice of yours?
So there's the radio voice that some of them do and the TV voice that some of them do, or when they're trying to meet a girl, the voice they do. This is actually Alec and my voice. The rest of them kind of do a cheap impersonation of us. But I will tell you a very funny story. The first time I ever did The Tonight Show, it was Jay Leno, and I'm very nervous. And I had a recurring dream twice that when I walked out, I tripped and fell. And I don't know anything about doing a big talk show. You know, I'm new to the game. I'm on a TV series.
What year is this? This is?
This was, in 89, 88, something like that. And so I walk out and I walk right in front of Jay and he goes, Daniel, thanks for doing the show. And I said, Jay, thanks for having me on. And as soon as I open my mouth, he stops and he goes, you know, you boys look so much alike from here to here. And you sound so much alike. To what do you attribute that to? I said, Jay, my mother and father were boring lovers. They did it in the same position all the time. I got a great laugh till I got home and got the message from my mother.
What'd she say? She said, why would you?
We've been brawling, kicking photographers, laying people out in bars. No one said a word. My mother, I talked about her sex life with my father, and she hit the ceiling. I told women from my church group to watch that show, Daniel. Don't call this out. I mean, she flipped out on me.
See, she was sincerely pissed off.
She was pissed. She was pissed that I said that, yeah.
But how is it, like when I talk to Stephen and he's telling me the stories, right? I'm like, okay, 4 guys, 4 brothers, okay, and I'm learning more about Alec, you know, in school, president, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, he goes to college, all this stuff, and then he's saying, well, the real guy with the ladies was really Daniel, you were the athlete, you were all this stuff. He's telling all these stories. And then all of you guys go into acting in Hollywood, and I'm learning more about it. He gave me his version. What happened?
Okay, so first of all, no, I love my brother Stephen. I'm not here to throw him under the bus, but as many people do, you can recognize when someone is saying a story about a group or saying a story about someone else, and what they're really talking about is themselves. So in Stephen's depiction that I heard, he said, well, you know, we're all a bunch of dumb jocks, and you know, and Alec got in, and we all said, oh, hey, we should do that too. No, that's not what happened. So as little kids, my father was a high school football coach and a school teacher at Massapequa High School on Long Island. The other high school in the town was Berner High School, where we all went to. So we played my father Thanksgiving Day for bragging rights for the entire town. 8 games, you could lose 7, you had to win that game. I am one of the few people that I know of that ever won the most valuable player of that game in a losing effort. We lost to my father 3-0 my senior year, the last play of the game in the mud and the rain and everything else. And I lost to my father, but was one of the MVPs of the game. So when Stephen made the comment that he was, and we were all jocks that followed Alec, and I don't know of a single sport Stephen played in high school, so I'm not sure what he's talking about being a jock. Although he was athletic, he didn't play any sports, so I think that kind of rules him out.
I mean, listen, to give him credit, if you look at that picture right there, Stephen's got a physique to the left.
Yeah. No, listen, Stephen could have played, but he didn't play anything. That I think he wrestled in like 8th grade or something once.
And you look very comfortable with yourself there in that picture.
Listen, I depict what I depict. I'm straight up the guy that you want to talk to when you want the facts. So, Alec and I, as little kids, my father had a camera. They filmed the team they were going to play the next week. He asked the district for the camera. They said no. He bought an 8mm camera himself and would send a freshman coach or somebody else out to film the team we were playing next week, to have scouting films, to look at the team we were going to play. So that was for his high school, his football team. That camera sat around the house outside of football season. So at 7 years old, I was 7, Alec was 9.5, we said, can we use the camera? And the Cornelius brothers who lived behind us, Keith and Kevin Cornelius, they had a camera. We started making movies in our backyard with the Cornelius brothers in 1967.
He was 9, you were 7.
9, 7, went to the golf course, sold nickel cups of iced tea to buy more 8mm film, and we were back in business. Fully understanding at that age, editing in the can. We had no editing facility in the beginning. So you came walking in, we filmed you, Patrick, and then stopped, handed you the camera. I reached into my coat, started to pull the gun out, stopped, took the camera back, you back. So we did all the editing while we shot it sequentially. And we understood that at that age. That's where my interest in film started, working behind my brother, who was older than me, so I followed along and died 15 times in each movie. And I can remember being in the top bunk and, tomorrow morning, what we do? We take some of the hairy snakes, we put them in a Hellman's mayonnaise jar, we light it up, and it'll be a smoke screen. I'd be like, yeah! We'd be all fired up for special effects we could do ourselves. We lit stuff on fire, we got in trouble. We rolled my mother's car down the driveway, and Alec would sit on a couple of telephone books and look, James Bond. We did a series of Joe Cool movies, which were a spoof on Sean Connery's James Bond, where Alec played Bond. Now, I can remember all the way back then, I can remember acting through high school in plays, Alec acting in high school. Then Alec goes away to college. Now, I'd be lying to tell you that his success didn't pique people's interest. There's more of them. There's another one. There's another one, another one. So certainly that helped people in the business. But it had nothing. This was something that we talked about, and one of the greatest signatures to it was Ronald Reagan. Were we going to get involved in politics, go to law school, get involved in law, which is what my father wanted, or were we going to go into acting? And then we hear this guy, he becomes president of the United States, governor multiple terms in California, the 7th most powerful, if California was a country, it'd be the 7th most significant economic power in the world. So here's a guy who was arguably a B actor, and he becomes president of the United States. And I'll never forget when he got elected, going to Alec's apartment going, we can do both. We can actually do both. So
what year was that? 84? So if it's 84, he becomes president.
Right.
Was it 84 or 82? When does he become?
No, 84. 84.
Is it 84? Okay.
Yeah, Carter was 80.
80. Carter was 80. Okay, so 84 he becomes president. You just told me you just turned 63 or 64.
So I'm 24.
So you're 24. He's 26. An actor officially is the president. Guys, we can one day become, is that the conversation?
This is actually the conversation where I turned around and I said to him, listen, we can go do the acting thing. We can hold off on anything to do with law school because he's already started by 84, soap opera kind of stuff. He's starting his career and I'm just coming out of college. And so I turned around and I said to him, look, we could go pursue this. And I really thought, believe it or not, I really thought there was a chance because of how smart he is and because of how silver-tongued he is, Alec Baldwin my brother could have been president of the United States. I really believe if he had gone that route after, say, mid-90s, late 90s, when he was at the top of his game and then jumped. But in recent years that we talked about it, his wife is not in favor of raising those kids in the White House. She does not want to be under that kind of scrutiny. She does not want to be there. And that's the reason that I understand is the reason why he's not running for president or not going to get involved in politics, which, believe it or not, prior to the last 5 years, I think he would have had a shot at being a senator and working his way up the system. He's handsome. He's very, very bright. But it wasn't something he wanted to pursue. So, but definitely when Reagan was elected president, I thought, wow, you don't even have to be a huge star. Ronald Reagan was not a very super successful actor. And certainly he had Nancy in his corner, who was the brains of the operation anyway, in my opinion. But he proved to me that we could do both if we wanted to. And as we look at where we are in our careers now, it's not something that I haven't talked to my wife about doing myself. Not that I'd ever be president, but to go into politics in the next 5 years is something I might very well take a look at now.
Really? You're that. So when you go back to 7, 9 years old, you're doing the movies, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are kids. Is William and Stephen involved, or what's the age difference with William and Stephen? How much younger is Stephen from you?
So it's Beth, the oldest, Alec, Daniel, Billy, Jane, Stephen. We're all two years and change.
So when
apart.
you're 7, Stephen is
1.
So Stephen's not doing anything, and
No.
William's not doing anything.
Nothing.
Okay, so it's really only you and Alec.
It's me and Alec.
Okay, so you guys are true older brothers to, Stephen and William. And when you guys start talking about politics, is that dad selling the dream to you guys? Hey, one of you guys is going to be a president like the Kennedys would? Is he pouring the vision, or are you guys getting inspired?
I think that because my father was a staunch Democrat, very much about rights, equality, was a big Kennedy fan, huge Kennedy fan. I don't think it was so much because he wanted us to become president, as I think he always envisioned. My father was in law school and left school before he graduated and became a teacher for personal reasons of his own, I'm sure. I never really got to explore that much with him. My father died at 55. So, young. So, but I think his vision for his namesake, particularly for Alec, was that Alec become a lawyer. I think that's what he always wanted. And initially, I think that there was pressure on Alec to do that. I think that there was an unsaid kind of pressure on him. But I can recall my father living long enough to see Alec's success on TV. He'd bring a TV into his classroom. He was a high school teacher, and play Alec on the soap opera and watch it while he was teaching the class. So
and Dad, who was the one? Because he said Xander for president, sex for president, right? Is that the one when Stephen said Xander? The dad came out with the campaign, right?
Yeah.
Sex. What did sex stand for? Something for president. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
What did he say?
Students elect Xander.
Students
Sex.
elect Xander. Yeah, for president.
That's when he ran for in
Right.
high school.
Right. That's when he ran for.
Right.
And then Stephen said that Alec got discouraged in college when he didn't win being the college president, and then he dropped that. Was that the reason why he dropped that, or was it just Hollywood took off for him?
No, he left George Washington and went to NYU, and he graduated. But I think that he was discouraged by not winning that. I think when you're used to being successful, it's hard to take those blows sometimes.
Especially earlier.
And with Billy, so I can cap the rest of the Stephen story, his version of it. So Alec and I talked for years about, did I ever imagine that we would all, 1 in 2,500 actors in Los Angeles makes enough money to not have to subsidize their income doing something else for a living. 1 in 2,500. Those are pretty disparaging odds. So to be one of those 1 in 2,500 and have made a career and a living of doing it, I'm more than grateful and blessed to be here with you today and still be able to make a living doing it. Billy never acted a day in his life. Billy's just really handsome. And Billy was standing at a party that I believe Alec brought him to. And Alec was like, yeah, come to this party. There's going to be a lot of models. There's going to be a lot of really good-looking people in the business. He's in New York. And Billy's wispy hair, and he flips his hair back. And this woman walks up to him and goes, hey, my name is, Nadia. I own Men Modeling Agency. Have you ever thought about modeling? And Billy went, no. She goes, well, you've got a very interesting look. And Billy turns around and signs up with this woman with no interest that I knew of, and maybe have him on next and have him tell his version of it, and blows up. Goes to Italy, works on his book, meets, all these people, becomes one of the first, if not the first, Calvin Klein underwear man. Billy early on. I remember going downtown, being in a cab, looking up at that giant Jumbotron going, and I got out of the cab. I pick up the payphone, no cell phones at the time, and I call my brother Alec up and I go, you got to see this down at Times Square. Billy's on the Jumbotron with like no shirt on and the hair falling in his face. Where is it? Yeah. No, it was an underwear shot. But anyway, we crap like Billy's on the, he's in, how did this happen? And that's the weird thing. When you look at the number of people that are successful, how bad the odds are, and then you look at how nepotistic it is, you understand if you're Charlie Sheen, your father's Martin Sheen, Drew Barrymore, John Barrymore, the Cusack's parents both taught acting in Chicago. Usually there's some seed. There was nobody in my.
That's the part that's interesting.
That's
the part that's
Yeah.
weird. So Alec wasn't sometimes the oldest brother's like the second father. He's too close to have that kind of a identity to you. Or was he seen like that? Were you guys afraid of Alec or no?
It skipped. So one of the odd things when he makes the comment about being a jock was I grew very quickly. So after, right into our teens, I was already nose to nose with Alec. You know what I mean? So
If you guys fought, who would win?
by the time I was 16 or so, I think he knew what time it was. Yeah.
Okay.
But you can never really tag your brother. Like you could tag somebody you were in a fight with.
You need to speak to my two boys.
Right,
I think they need a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I can never wail away at him. But yeah, there was some good athleticism, and then there was me. It was a little bit of a
So
different bar.
you were like a different level of an athlete because the way Stephen put it, you were like the man.
Oh yeah, no. I was much superior.
Good enough to get to the next level?
Yeah, college, rang the doorbell and everything. But I just, when you're from a family my dad was a school teacher, so we had 6 kids, not a lot of money in the house, trying to live on 6 children on a school teacher's salary. I got very interested in money. I got very interested in the proposition of making money. I never did much of my career before acting, or rather after acting, to focus on money. So every once in a while I take a crappy movie or whatever because they just dangled such a big carrot in front of me. I'm like, that'll pay my bills for a year. So I did some of those, but only in the last 3 to 4 years have I really looked at it. Because my wife is smarter than me. She's an attorney, and she turned around and she goes, we need to put some money in the bank. We need to put this away. You're old, and we need to do this now. No, I'm not kidding. But I have focused a lot more on money. And back then, too, I liked the idea of being able to give my mother, back in 1979, to hand my mother $500 was a week's salary for my father, and I just was making money.
When your dad was coaching the opposing team that you guys are going to play against, and it's coming time for the game, the week of, how intense is the house? Is he talking shit? Are you guys talking shit, or it's quiet? No one's talking.
Mom is Switzerland. She's saying nothing. And my father's going, Saturday, baby, we'll see. He's right in my, pointing at me, especially me. I think I was most like my father. And so he didn't give me an inch.
Is he like this? Is his personality like you guys? Like, is he like that, or is he a calmer? Was he intense?
He was intense. He wasn't as loud or as gregarious probably as I am. But if you pissed him off, you didn't. My mother used my father as a weapon. I remember having this conversation with my wife recently, where you have the right to go. Do you want me to tell your father? Do you want me to call your father? And we were like, yeah, please don't call him in, because when he got upset. Like if you disrespected my mother, if you used foul language, if you did certain things, you did not want that turned over to my father. Because my father would have taken you by the throat, put you up against a wall. Oh, for sure.
Who got in trouble the most?
Oh, hello. Hi, welcome, and thank you for flying.
Is it because you and him bumped heads, or because you guys had the strongest personality? What was it?
It's interesting you would ask that, because I just recently was kind of still researching that, as I have a young son. I have a much older son, and I have a young son who's 18 months old. And I was talking with Deasia, my wife, about it, and I said, I think in some ways with 6 kids, my misbehaving was seeking some type of love or attention from my father. So because it was spread so thinly, that when I misspoke, when I, misacted or got in trouble, I got my father's one-on-one attention, which in a way I think I equated being punished, being physically reprimanded at times as being loved. And so, because I was getting unique one-on-one attention from my father, which was a terrible way to go get it. And I don't think he always reacted to it the best way he could have. But you know what? When you got 6, you're kind of on the move. Papa was a Rolling Stone. So I don't fault anybody for anything they do. It's all part of the journey.
Politically, when I see the 4 of you, I wonder where that comes from, because it's so all 4 of you are slightly different.
Ooh.
Right? I mean,
not anymore.
Were you
Not
guys
slightly.
was it ever fully the same? Were you ever the 4 of you on the same page?
Yes, Alec. Well, Stephen was never really as opinionated or I think interested in Stephen's religious affiliation got him interested in politics.
Got it.
But Alec was the head of the Creative Coalition. Billy was the head of the Creative Coalition. We definitely thumped hard, voted Democrat, registered as a Democrat for many years. not until 2016 when they bought a guy, and I got to know people. Remember, if I'm going to play a NASA astronaut, if I'm doing Apollo 13, they're taking me to NASA. I'm training with astronauts. I mean, the amount of information. If I'm going to be a heart surgeon, I'm going to Hopkins with Jarvik, and I'm watching him put in a Jarvik 7 in someone's chest. You get that kind of access. So as I learned more and made these friendships with people, and I started looking at Trump, and I started looking at the Republican Party, would people criticize RFK for jumping ship? And I looked and I said, yeah, but you know what? For Jack Kennedy and for RFK Sr., if they saw what happened to the Democratic Party now, if they saw what they were about now compared to what they thought it was about then, it's a very, very different ballgame now. And I could no longer, in good conscience, back a horse that I didn't think was running to win. You know, I mean, I couldn't. And so, and I still believe that now. So, and I got in all kinds of trouble, and definitely, Stephen was with me, which is, I'm shocked that Stephen has said things on open social media. I'm no longer politically affiliated. I don't want, I'm not in politics. Well, that's a hell of a time. That reminds me of Tim Waltz saying right before you're about to get deployed, hey guys, good luck. Good luck to you. Take care. I mean, you're going to jump ship now? You're going to say, even though you're not going to back the other side, I back the other side. I came right out of it this time in 2020 and now hard. Where 18 months ago, the FBI, according to Joe Rogan and some other sources, blacklisted me. The FBI blacklisted me because I got on the show way before it was popular or anyone else had said it. And I said, do you really think that Joe Biden is going to run against Donald Trump? Do you think those people don't know he's going to get his ass kicked? He's never going to run against her. The only chance they have is if Michelle Obama runs. They need an African-American woman. Biden will get the nomination. They'll yank him for some ridiculous reason. He's sick. He's got an aneurysm, whatever it's going to be. And they'll put Michelle in. If Michelle runs, they have a possible chance because it puts Barack back in. He was popular enough still to win. They didn't. They didn't pick the right horse because she probably didn't want to walk away from $70 million in the money they're making now. So they backed Kamala, lowest approval rating in the history of vice presidency, and they lost. They lost. But I said that was going to happen. Just like I said, night after night, 3, 4, 5 nights out, this isn't close in Michigan. And when I say close, I mean that she's a threat to win. She's going to lose every single one of the battleground states. Every one of them. Billy turns around and writes, Billy and I were going at it. Alec and I don't even talk. Billy and I were going at it over this. And he said to me, I guess pollsters around the world from Oxford, they know less than you do, Daniel. I said, Billy, follow the money. Just call up your guy in Vegas and ask him, what are the odds? You think these people that are betting hundreds of millions of dollars on this event, just like a boxing match, do they ever lose? Very rarely when they're betting that kind of money. And he was a 63% to 37%, some ridiculous odds on Vegas. Why? Because he was going to beat her. That's why. And they knew something we didn't know. And I knew it too. So I said, next thing you know, I'm on a list. I sent to Tony, YouTube pulled my show. I have a podcast. I've had a podcast for years. I was on ESPN. I was on Fox. I was on... And my podcast gets pulled down from YouTube. You have misinformation. You are using. I went, hang on a second. You guys stream Fox, you stream CSNBC, and you stream CNN on YouTube. You can watch those channels. Any piece of information that was on my show, I pulled the quote down, I pulled the picture down with the article, or I pulled the video down from those 3 sources. So if you're streaming them, what misinformation? And I asked them, you can appeal this decision. I said, okay, I appeal. So I start going through the appeal progress. They went, we're not accepting your appeal. Why? Because I didn't fit into their forum of what they wanted to have.
What, was it on a specific issue on YouTube, or what was it? Was it on a specific video where you said something? Or
here's the interesting thing. Please give me any example, or they said examples of where I misinformed my audience, where I didn't say, and I think, because I can give my opinion based on that article. Now, if you come out and you say someone's a pedophile, if you come out and you say, you better be able to back that up. Yeah. There better be substantial information. I never did that. I said things like, this woman is totally unqualified because she doesn't hit any of the 3 characteristics that I find the most compelling to elect someone. Number 1, what is your plan? Number 2, how do you plan on executing your plan? And number 3, and the biggest one, where's the money coming from? Because if you're going to say, I believe we should have fresh air, I believe good drinking water. These are all great things. How are you going to clean up the water? How are you going to deliver it? How are you going to pay for it? Because there's two pots, the pot of the money that goes out and the pot of the money comes in. So if you're going to give the middle class a break and you're going to let them save money on taxes, then you're depleting the pot that spends. So how are you replenishing that? Billionaires will pay more money. Madam Vice President, what if that doesn't pass the House? What if the Senate says no to that bill? Well, they have to say, no, they don't. No, they don't have to say. And by the way, while you continue to trick the American people into believing that billionaires aren't paying for your campaign, they are. It's just different billionaires. Mm-hmm. So you're going to make your friends pay more money in taxes to make up for the break you're giving to them. It's all bullshit, Patrick. It's a game that we play. It's almost like a Harry Houdini illusion that there's no accountability. Where Trump won me over was in two places. It had to do with a mindset. I'll never forget the day I looked and I went, man, that's brilliant. What are you going to do about the nuclear proliferation of North Korea? They now have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the coast of California. And Trump went, nothing. Well, yeah, they could bomb San Francisco. They could, nothing. I'm from Queens. If we had a problem with a guy up in the Bronx, I called my cousin that lived up in the Bronx. I called my friends that lived somewhere near there or someone I knew there that was a good friend of mine, an ally, and I said, hey, straighten this guy out. What's it going to look like if China parks 500,000 troops on the North Korean peninsula? What's that going to look like? Let China worry about it. They're thirsty for our money. They need our money. They're trading with us. They're like Japan now. They're so dependent on American dollars. Let them worry about it and straighten this guy out. And I went, amen. Why would we send our boys over there except for the industrial machine that is war right now, what has been since the beginning of time. But still, why would we send our guys there? I love that mentality of it. And I thought, this guy's so far outside the box. He's so far outside the box. He handles it like a business. He's not politically loyal to really anybody. And he was friends with everybody. It's so funny. They show those clips of The View of all those women who loved him and he was their friend and he was the best guy in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And now they hate his guts. They hate his guts. Why? Because he's not part of the machine.
Let me ask you about the four of you, okay?
Yeah.
If you were to put the four of you there politically, would you put Billy far left, then Alec, then Stephen, then you? Is that kind of how you would put it? If it was to say like where everybody lies? Because Alec doesn't give me vibes of a far left guy.
Well, I mean, and then he goes to Turin at the Turin Film Festival, accepting a Lifetime Award a few days ago, and says that the people on the right and the people of America are misinformed and they're not in the reality of. Why? Because we don't agree with you? I mean, I would never allow an election to affect whether I love my brother Alec and affect my relationship with him. Whereas he has absolutely allowed that to occur in the family with myself and other members. Billy and I were really close. And although we butt heads and he lost, we didn't go so far that we weren't talking, but it was a real strain on our relationship. And then Stephen, I think he straddles the line because there's a part of Stephen that believes religiously, in particular, what he believes as a born-again Christian, and that what Trump has said. Now, again, I'm taking everything out of what the person personally is about. You go all the way back to JFK, and there's tunnels cut under the White House, and Marilyn Monroe, and who killed her. I mean, we could go on and on and on with all the conspiracies and things about infidelity, and from every president, pretty much, besides Jimmy Carter, who's probably the greatest man to ever be president as a man. Not as a president. So I think Alec and Billy are neck and neck. I think Alec has learned to keep his mouth shut a little bit more right now. He's had a rough couple of years, going on for him, and unjustifiably so. I mean, he for sure, what happened with him was a travesty and really, 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 really was sad for him because, he deep down is a human being and a good guy. He's a good guy. He's got a big mouth, so. He puts it out there just like I do, but we don't agree. Billy and I, we don't agree at all politically. I mean, Billy believes that the reasons why Billy that I heard can't stand Trump have a lot to do with personal things that he has towards Trump. Are any of them the guys that we want to be our Boy Scout leaders and raising our children? Probably not. Probably not, because it's a terrible job to have. And I think what's required to be president you have to almost be, you have to be George Bush Sr. You have to be the former head of the CIA, that you have that kind of cold blood running through your veins, that you're willing to do the things that you have to do to run a conglomerate the size of this internationally, the way we do, with war and life and death decisions and so on and so forth. I mean, I don't envy anybody that has that job. But Stevie is my biggest puzzle this year, because as much as I thought he was an ally and he was all behind Trump, to the expense of his relationship with a couple of his brothers, now he's kind of, he's back in the game in Hollywood. He doesn't really want to say too much bad about him, because believe me, I'm not going to get hired for a TV series that shoots in Hollywood, a network television show. It would have to be a producer that I was really good friends with, because of my stance about the president, because I've gone against a lot of these people. And I have a few theories about why they're so adamant and why that would exist, but we can go into that if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, a part with, You've been in the world for a while. The whole family's been in the world for a while with Hollywood. The dark side of it that we keep hearing about. Stephen gave his perspective of it, what he's seen, what he hears, what he's witnessed. And when you have a family name like this that people follow, what have you seen happen with Hollywood over the years, or has it always been evil like Stephen said it?
It's always been not to the level, I think. I mean, it's got more. Just look at television. Let's use television as a microscope. Archie Bunker, All in the Family, and the things that they would talk about, and the things they would hint at, and racism and stuff that came out, trying to be done in a humorous way. If you go and watch a TV commercial in England, you can see full frontal breast of a woman, and as long as it's done for a reason. If you were talking about making sure you get a mammogram, they'll show the woman's nipple the whole bit. Here, oh my God, you could never show that on TV. But you can lop someone's head off with a sword with blood shooting it out of it on Dexter and stab a woman. You can take Grand Theft Auto and rape someone in a game that your kids are playing online. Do you know the one most common thing that the school shooting kids have in common? They all play one of three games. Every single one of them played Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, or Fortnite. Those three. Every single shooter. Go through it. Go through it. Take a look. Look at it. He's looking it up right now. He's fact checking me. Come on, baby. Why? So take a look at it. You're walking into a building and you're going, and you're shooting everything that moves. And after you do it 100, 200, 5,000, 20,000, you become so numb to the idea that you just shoot what you see in that room. And so those games are awful for your kids to be involved in. They condone murder. They condone, they're bad games, man, I'm telling you. But the question about Hollywood, what's happened is we've become desensitized about what we're willing to accept. That's what I think has happened. We've become desensitized about, look at Diddy, for instance. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at him. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at, he has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on right now. They're driving that price up because if you want your client and your famous actor to not be involved, or famous singer to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those. This is what I heard. They're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X, and Tommy X is a big, big movie star, and he was at some of the Diddy parties, he was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman, and blah. Tommy doesn't want that video to come out. He does not want it to come out. Same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the interesting thing about the Epstein and the theory about Epstein is we know he filmed people for sure on that island. He has a lot of movies, a lot of films of people that are very, very powerful political figures, and entertainers, business people. So do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Of
course not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's other theories that he's in Lebanon. He never died at all. That having the weight of owning those films right now over people. So will Donald Trump release those films? I believe Donald Trump probably has a lot of friends that are in those videos too. I don't know if it behooves him to release them either. But what happens if iconic African Americans or iconic Japanese Americans or iconic Anglo Americans. Former presidents. So what happens if they're in those videos? What does that do to the herding of the sheep? Because I believe that's exactly what we're experiencing. We're all being pushed in a certain direction because when I sat with my brother Alec and my father and I watched Cronkite, and we sat and watched those news programs, and Cronkite reported the news, I believe that Cronkite was wholeheartedly reporting what he believed were true facts to the audience. I do not believe that anymore at all. I believe it's very agenda driven. I believe that they actually edit footage. They do things to whatever it is who they're working for and driving them that way. This happened in this election. Never, ever has it happened more than it happened in this last election.
60 Minutes, the edits they did.
Oh my God, they took, you legally can't even do that. No one's going to say anything about it. No one's going to say anything about it.
But do you think there's a part of it where it's the reason why they're losing credibility the way they have, where, the way they lost was incredibly embarrassing to lose all 7 states, and you had $1 billion+ that you spent paying celebrities to endorse you, and they're like, you know what, we're done. We don't want to buy this stuff anymore. You're just fake, and they're losing their credibility. Because it just seems like, look at this election where, Trump went on all these podcasts, and podcasts have more credibility than mainstream media. One went on all the mainstream places, the other one went on podcasts, and he ended up winning by a landslide.
When I come on and I watch your show, when I watch the few podcasts that I watch them and I know this, whether or not you have an opinion that slanted towards one side or whatever, I'm listening to what's being said, and then I'm looking up to see, wow, really, that's true? Just like we just did with something I said. Really, that happened? Well, I didn't know that, So it's you're not telling the audience, this is what's fact. You're talking about something that's out there that I'm left to decide or research it and look up what I want. So you're planting seeds more on podcasts, I think. So when I see a Rogan or I see you bring up even a product, and you say, and blah, blah, and I go, is that true, man? That thing really does that? And there's stuff out there that is so amazing. Like what Robert Kennedy is supposedly tasked to do now will change and disrupt the entire business world, and politics forever, if he's allowed to really do it. And that is, you go to Canada and you feed your kid Fruit Loops. When you feed your kid Fruit Loops, this is the only country that has a different recipe for Fruit Loops than everywhere else in the world, because the colors, the dyes, are banned in Canada, Europe, and all the other places. Only in America. Why? Because the same companies that own carcinogenic chemicals that are in all our packaged food are the same ones that own the pharmaceutical companies that are going to treat you when they give you cancer after 40 years of eating it. And then they're going to take you coming and going, and then you're dead. And this is what fuels the entire thing. Mm-hmm. So how is it that in this incredibly powerful, smart country that we would ever allow that? If we know that to be fact now, why would there not be a presidential act that the president just goes, yeah, no, you can't do that anymore. You're banned from. Well, they did do that in England. They did do it in France and Spain and Germany. They just haven't done it here because those same companies are the ones that are shelling over the 100 mil donations and all the money for these politicians to run.
Go back to Diddy. Let's go back to Diddy and some of these stories that we hear about. So Diddy. Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. He's very successful. And I think that there's a duality in it. There was the faces that showed up at the parties or the event that went to the big party. And then there was the late night crowd when everyone started going and then the doors got locked up. Everyone got, and the last 40, 30 people were there. And then it was, and I was never at any of those.
Was that a known thing? Like, how LeBron says there's no party like a Diddy party or,
right.
And a Diddy party don't stop or, you hear these lines. Mm-hmm. Did people know? It's like, dude, I was at the party. We're there till 6 o'clock in the morning. Let me tell you what happened after 2. Here's what happened. Here's what.
Right.
Is that known?
So I'll tell you, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, but was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes. But here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties and over the years and everything, with as successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties, they did. At a certain time, he shut it down, but not everybody left. So anyone that wasn't super famous or I'm with him or whatever, were exited from the house. You were gone. And then, you were with but what people I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge, iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Who's getting the money, though? The blackmail, the money's going to who? So let's just say I represent J-Lo. I represent LeBron. I represent whoever it is.
Right.
All right, so what are you going to do? Well, here's what we're going to do. Here's what the pay is. $30 million, $20 million. Who's the money going to?
Okay, so I'm not sure. I don't buy for a minute that he's going to prison without getting out of here somewhere and stashing $2 billion or whatever. I think he has that kind of power, meaning Sean himself. But remember, it goes a lot deeper than that. So play the game with me for a second. Let's say it's LeBron, which I'm not implying in any way that I believe LeBron James is involved in this, but he does have the famous quote, "No party like a Diddy party." So do you think LeBron James is the only one that has an interest in whether his career is destroyed? No, Nike has an interest. No, certain apparel companies have interests. No, many other people that are involved in huge businesses that are part owners of giant conglomerate companies have an interest in that. So Shaquille O'Neal owns most of JCPenney's. But you're talking about companies that if it comes out, so they might be the one that says they'd pay $25 million for that. You're talking about ruining the sale of an entire line of clothing. And I'm not saying I know this is going on.
Who are they paying? If let's just say, because accounting wise, if you're a publicly traded company, I can try, if somebody does a quality of earnings or if somebody does an audit on you, which when you're public, you're doing it all the time. What's this $30 million? Oh, it's marketing dollars. To who? Right. Show me who it went to. Who is this account?
Yeah.
What is this company?
So what happens if I have a tape of, some guy in another show here at Valuetainment, and I turn around and I come to the head guys here and I say, there's this very terrible tape of this guy, and Valuetainment decides to make a donation to or a marketing deal with me. You're right. It's going to be something like that. They're not going to say this is for the video, but
Who is the
I believe his representatives represent him. No, that would be who they're implying.
Yeah. Well, that's the part where, I'm wondering so one, more people are getting bolder to put the stuff out about him. What does that mean? More people are getting bolder to say, here's a video of him and his girlfriend. How come we didn't see it before? It's been around for a while. Now you're showing it to us. Here's who this person came out. $30 million here. This person over here. That person over here. Jamie Foxx, I don't know if you saw the one with Jamie Foxx saying the fact that when his special comes out, he's actually going to talk about the fact that Diddy's the one that poisoned him. Again, this is a story.
I heard that story too.
Was that, yeah. How a story about Sean Diddy Combs and Jamie Foxx mystery illness went viral. Is this the one? Yeah, December 2nd. Go a little lower. Some of the upcoming Netflix comedy shows. Jamie Foxx expected to include the actor addressing a mysterious 2023 health crisis that left him hospital. This is from today.
Right.
For more than 20 days and recovering for months more, but has also sparked rumors it was Diddy. May have some of the response for it. Okay. Which Combs' camp has denied, but Fox has not. I mean, of course Combs' camp is going to deny,
right,
but it's what Fox is going to say because everyone's interested in what Fox's story is.
But now if you go and you look further about the number of people that have had this sudden death thing happen to them that are related to Diddy, it's like some viral lung or something, like some weird, but like 5 people that had information on him that were going to testify against him, look it up. So if you look up, death trail of Diddy affiliates due to mysterious disease or whatever you want, and it's going to come up and you're going to go, wow. So, and a lot of the same symptoms as Fox. And there's a number of them that, it was a couple that both died. One died, the husband, I think, and then the girlfriend died like a month later of the same thing, and they believe that it has something to do with him. Again, I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show. Is someone going to knock on my door one day? Is my car going to blow up? Because I'm willing to talk about things. 13 deaths around Diddy, 9 victims of City College incident, Tupac and Biggie Kim, blah, blah, it goes on and on. And I think the funny thing is we're fed what they want us to believe. So how much of it is you're looking over here while they're doing whatever they're doing over here? And I think a lot of misdirection happens in the press.
Go with Epstein. Epstein is a different story. Did you ever have a chance to meet Epstein?
No, I did not know him.
Okay. And with Epstein, you hear stories with him, with the people that went to the, what do you call it? The Epstein Island, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think happened there? And what do you think is going on right now? You're saying that one of the reasons why you don't believe Epstein's list is going to come out because some of them may have been Trump's friends.
Well, not just Trump or the Clintons or anyone that's in office. But I will say the difference between the two entities, Diddy and Epstein, are you're talking about super, super powerful political figures internationally from, there's rumors of Trudeau, there's rumors of, these are presidents, premiers, prime ministers. These are very, very ex-presidents. So, and we're also, there's something to be said. So if I show you, let's say me, okay, and I'm, Tom Cruise size, I'm a huge A-list actor, and you show me having a gay relationship that's on film, me having sex with some other man. Now, again, as a leading man, is that going to be damaging the box office? Is that going to hurt my credentials? Is that going to say anything about the children that I had? And what's that going to do to me? But again, if you denied it and said that it didn't happen, then it comes out and they show videotape of it. I guarantee that thing sells off the chain. People want to see that. But that's way different than saying that you had sex with an underage boy or girl. That's illegal. Okay, so what happened on Epstein's Island, the things that are rumored to have there are underage girls, really young too, like 12, like young girls that are testifying now, I was there, I had sex with this. Those are illegal activities. And also America, even as wild as we can be here, and let's go to Vegas, with the wildest of the wild, they don't accept that behavior. That's going to be one that's going to be a tough one to outrun that bullet. So the Epstein stuff, I think, is far more serious than getting your freak on it with Diddy and doing the things that they did over there. Unless there's underage people involved in that. I think that's a different category.
Do you know, without naming names, do you know specifically people that were on that island who are, who you spent time with or you knew in Hollywood?
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
And you have you heard vivid stories of what took place on that island?
I have been with people that I have told me again. Like Hollywood isn't a place that people shoot their mouths off and tell things that aren't true. But I know people that have told me either secondhand or that they themselves had been there. And remember too, I don't think that everyone went there knowing what was going to happen. I think people went there going, oh, we're going to this great island. This guy Epstein's doing a movie or whatever. They get there and they go, oh, she's beautiful. Yeah, she's kind of interested in you. And I'm paraphrasing. She's kind of interested in you. If you want to go get a massage, well, she looks very young. And so if you had any conscience, you would say, yeah, no, I'm not doing that, or no, I'm married, or no, I'm, or whatever the reason was. Then when the girl gets in there, let's say you're even stupid enough to go in the room, and the girl goes, I'm 14. You should get up and walk out of the room. She might have been all dressed up, and you thought she was 20, and you thought you were going to have a fling. Once you found that out, because that's part of the allure of it, that you want to be with an underage girl or underage boy. Once you found that out, now if you stay in the room, you've asked for trouble, and you're about to get trouble because he had a camera hidden in the room, and he has all kinds of videos, supposedly, of those events. Now, what does that look like if that came out 8 years ago and Hillary Clinton's husband was involved? What does that look like if Donald Trump was involved? What does that look like if Tim Walz was? Again, you could shape the direction of a country based on having the wrong person in one of those videos. And I believe those types of influential people are involved in those, which is why you probably will never see them, because they will do everything. Look at when they raided Diddy's house. Do you ever see the footage of them walking out with the raid? They got like 2 boxes about this big. That was it. That was the whole raid, was to take those 2 boxes? Or was that whole raid to keep Sean Combs in the news because a lot of other stuff was going on at that time? Yeah, look, that was it. That was what you came with, National Guardsmen and SWAT guys with the 2 sons walking out with their hands up, and for that whole giant estate, which is like 4 homes. And I don't know, something doesn't match up about it. Something just doesn't match up about it. Hey, I got a question for you, and I'll come back to whatever you want. What do you think of the pardon?
I was going to ask you about it, but
Okay.
for me, I think the pardon is. Here's my sequencing of what I think happened.
Okay, yeah, I really wanted to hear about it.
Yeah, I think Biden wasn't planning on pardoning Hunter because he did not think Trump was going to win, because Biden thought Kamala would win with all the money behind her, and the favor that Kamala had in return is to pardon Hunter to prevent anything from happening with Joe, and that's why Karine Jean-Pierre and everybody kept saying, no one's above the law, no, because the plan was Kamala's going to win, Trump doesn't stand a chance, the DOJ, all the lawsuits, E. Jean Carroll, all this stuff, that's just not going to happen. This guy's toast. A year ago, a lot of people thought Trump was toast. Then all of a sudden he wins. So then Trump is in a perfect place. Why? Because one of two things are going to happen. Either Biden is not going to pardon his son, or Biden is. Let's play both of them out. If Biden does pardon his son, it allows Trump to do anything and everything with J6, anything and everything. Anybody Trump pardons, guess what? Can't say nothing about it. Nothing. Mm-hmm. You pardon your own son. So don't tell me nepotism type of stuff. Now, say Biden doesn't pardon his son. Okay, Trump has that carrot right there to use for 4 years. And I believe on day one, my opinion, Trump would have pardoned Hunter and all the J6 people on day one to confuse the shit out of the media. Mm-hmm. The media would have been like, wait a minute, who did he just, did he really just pardon Biden's son Hunter and J6? So on one end, you're pissed because it's all the J6 people. On the other end, you're like, wait a minute. His own father didn't pardon him, but Trump, this is confusing what's going on. To me, it was a sequencing play, and Trump was in a power play. And if what's his name? If he was going to do it the right way, I like what Joe Manchin said. Joe Manchin said he should have pardoned him and Trump at the same time instead of doing just Hunter. If Joe would have pardoned Hunter and Trump on the same day, the market would have said, all right, it's kind of like a wash. We get totally what you're doing. That's what I think. I don't think Biden had any plans of pardoning him because he did not think Trump was going to win.
Okay, so I like the theory, the both theories. I will say this. It's like the old adage, what question does a lawyer never ask? A question he doesn't know the answer to. Never ask that question. The same here. Don't ever say something as Biden that you don't 100% know. So what got him was the fact that he kept saying he would never pardon him. No, I would never use my power.
Right.
Because guess what? Hey, everybody, if my son has charges against him and I'm president, and as a parting gift, I get to pardon my son, I'm pardoning my son for sure. It wasn't like he was, some gratuitous, terrible, murderous crime or something, he Manson or something. Yeah, again, see, he had a drug problem. He sought some help. He made some mistakes. And as president, I would pardon my son. His mistake was, I think, that he said he wouldn't do it. And so egregiously told everyone he was never going to do that. Now, on the other side, you bring up something very interesting to me. And that is, what would it have looked like if Biden had pardoned Trump? What would it look like if, as a parting gift, he said, you know what, let's start fresh. You're president. I'm pardoning my son, and I pardon you of any of the... That would have been something for Joe Biden to have done. I think also the American people wouldn't have been so quick to jump on him for changing what he said he was going to do. And they would have seen that as a very confusing thing that he did. Same as you were saying, if it had been Trump. That would have been very interesting if he had done that. I have said a number of times, and I'm still hanging on to this. It's not as obvious to me anymore, and I don't think it's as credible, but it's still a possibility, that she becomes number 47. That she actually comes in. Remember, if you get to see he's got some heart palpitation, or he blew a gasket and we're not sure what it is, for precautionary reasons, we're going to make Kamala president for 35 days, or whatever. I still think that's in play. I really do.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think that's very likely of happening. If they wanted to kind of really piss people off, That would be one. You know who'd be the most pissed if that would have happened? One person would be more pissed than anybody else.
Tell me.
Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Yeah.
Nobody would be more pissed than her because she would steal. And by the way, there's no way Kamala is at Hillary's level of anything.
No.
I don't think she's at, you don't have to like Hillary. But if I have to choose between the two strategy-wise, Kamala is not even close to the level of Hillary has. Good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Deceptive, nasty, whatever you want to call it. Hillary would lose her shit if that were to take place. Let me go back to some of the questions we're talking about with, your brother William. William did Sliver, didn't he?
He did Sliver. Yeah.
And Sharon Stone and I, one time Sharon Stone messaged me. She started following me on Instagram, and she started watching some of the videos. Uh-huh. And then one time I'm like, so how often you come to Florida? Would love to do a podcast with you. I would never go to the state of Florida. Why won't you go to Florida? Are you kidding me? Look what your governor has done. He's destroyed the entire great state. I used to love Florida. I'm like, whoa. This just went on a complete, I'm just asking you. Yeah. And she could not believe that I was optimistic about Florida, that I lived in LA 26 years and I moved to Texas. Mm-hmm. And then from California to Texas to Florida.
We're in Texas.
Plano, Texas. We have an office in Addison till today.
Yeah.
Your brother, when he played Sliver, I'll never forget the soundtrack, right? I can sing the song, but I remember the sound. It was actually a very good movie.
Sing it, baby. Come on.
Yeah, it's Wise Men. Which one is it? UB40? I think it is UB40, right?
Wise Men.
Right. Is that the one? I think it is UB40 on the soundtrack. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Falling in Love with You.
Right.
The elevator scene. What was maybe his, maybe yours? What can you say about Sharon Stone? Because she said a couple things just this last week about politics.
I'll tell you my Sharon Stone story. So they're on set. They don't get along very well. They didn't hit it off at all, and they had some real steamy love scenes.
It was
well documented.
Okay,
well documented.
Yeah.
So I believe she said her quote was, and I'm paraphrasing: "If Billy Baldwin thinks he can carry a movie without me, he's out of his mind." And Billy came back and said something to the effect of, all I know is she was an average kisser and something else, like some other dig on her. So they come to me and they said to me, hey, your brother's feuding with Sharon Stone. And at the time, she's huge. She's like the biggest female star. Her, Julia, and maybe a handful of others. And so I said, yeah, I don't really have anything to say. Now, I think Billy was, probably 35 and she was 36 or somewhere around there. So now I'm doing The Tonight Show. I go there and they asked me, do you want to be our first guest? You've done the show before. Would you like to be the first guest on Wednesday, which is not a very, well-watched day? And listen, my ego's out of it. I want the most people possible to see The Tonight Show. Or you can go on Friday in second position behind Sharon Stone, who's huge, way bigger than me. And I went, I'll go on Friday. Let Sharon get the audience to watch it, and I can say, go watch my movie. So I'm in the green room, and it's so funny because I just told this story to your guys. And I walk in the green room, I sit down, I'm getting ready. Sharon's got to go on first. You get to watch them on the show. And there's a door just opens, no knock, and it's Sharon Stone. And she looks at me and she goes, you do know I'm going on first. And I looked at her and I went, well, yeah, you're Sharon Stone. That's the reason why I did it on a Friday, because you're going to draw more people than I will. She goes, okay. She goes, and I'm not waiting for you. I said, I'm sorry? So, when you do The Tonight Show, you move one seat down and the next guest comes in and you stay out there to watch the person, and be there. And you assemble.
It was important to her to say that I'm not
waiting
for
you.
And
I'm not waiting for you. And I said, again, you're Sharon Stone. If you decide you don't want to wait, I guess I'll just go out there alone, me and Jay.
Is she hardcore cold?
Oh, she's saying, just like I said, okay. And you realize I'm not waiting for you. And I went, yeah, you're Sharon Stone. You don't have to wait if you don't want to. She walks out and she goes, fine, and shuts the door really hard and walks out. Now, this is all, I've never met the woman. So this has to do with Billy and how much she hates Billy, right? So I go do the show. She didn't wait. I have a good show with Jay, and I know Jay a little bit. So we're talking about cars and having fun, blah, blah. And I get done. And I call the reporter from the LA Times back the next day. And I said, I do have a comment. I just don't understand how a 35-year-old man and a 49-year-old woman can't get along. And they printed it. And I added like 14 years onto her age. I got a call from my publicist going, Sharon Stone's publicist just called, and you said she's 49 years old. I went, oh, she looks 49. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I thought it was a funny comment.
Wow. Did you ever run into her again?
Yeah, she burned a lot of bridges because she was, tough to get along with, and she was pretty legendary with some of the things that, she was very demanding. And you got to remember, when that escalator is going up, it's coming down later. And so you're going to cross those same people again. So it doesn't cost any extra to be nice. I remember I was at my father, the 10-year anniversary of the death of my father, and my mother was not taking it well. She handled his death better than she did the 10-year anniversary. And I called her up. She was in Syracuse, New York. And I said, Mom, I'm going to come into town this weekend. Let's go out to dinner and we'll go do it. And she said, okay, honey, come on in. And so I fly into Syracuse, and now it's the night. It's Saturday night. It's the 10-year anniversary, I believe, of my father's death, or within a couple of days. And a woman came up to me and she said, excuse me, Mr. Baldwin, but I watch your show, and I think it's, and I said, ma'am, are you eating in the restaurant? And she said, yes, I am. Would you mind if I found him? My mother's tears are coming down her eyes. We're talking about how much she loved my father and she misses him. And the woman turned around and I said, I'll find you in 5-10 minutes. She said, oh, I'm so sorry, yes. I turned around, my mother wasn't crying anymore. And she said, you get up from that chair right now. You go find that woman. You sign the autograph and take the picture right now. And I went, Mom, she went, now, Daniel. And I got up and I found the woman. I took a picture with everybody at the table and I signed her napkin or her menu. And I sat back down with my mother and she said, just remember something, hotshot. It doesn't cost any extra to be nice. And I've never turned down a picture. I have never turned down an autograph ever since that. Because you know what? Patrick, it doesn't cost any extra to be nice. And there may be someone from Iowa that picture is on the mantle next to the urn of their grandfather. So I mean, it could be a really big deal to them. And so I have never done that again. But that was a lesson for me. And so I think Sharon probably forgot a lot of that stuff, as she was coming up. But then I heard she actually got to be a little nicer. Now your interaction that you're talking about is more recent, no?
Yeah, it was. Let me check. It was 2 years ago. I couldn't even tell you what the. Let me get the exact timeline. She was very respectful at the beginning until I said Florida.
And that's so crazy that a whole state, or that a whole party, a whole Republican.
February 13th, 23.
Yeah.
February 13th, 23. She was not a fan of Florida at all. Like, who would come to Florida now?
Well, it's like the same thing. The list of people that were, this election was the biggest ever, but we're going to leave the country if Trump won. And I sit there and I look at, new in the news is Ellen has moved to London, Ellen and Portia. And I think to myself, no offense to Ellen, but who cares whether Ellen left and moved to, okay, bye. But the threat that I'm going to leave, like, you're, the person that has the only water that we drink. Are you like,
yeah.
You're gonna leave?
How many people said they're leaving, by the way?
Oh, my
quite
God.
a few people. By the way, going back to Sharon, I'm just pulling up the movie Sharon Stone did. Basic Instinct, legendary.
Yes.
By the way, I was on a flight 2.5, 3 years ago. I'm on a flight. I'm like, you know what? I haven't watched Basic Instinct in 20 years.
Right.
Let me watch it.
How did it hold up?
First of all, everybody is walking by my seat, first class. They're thinking I'm watching porn. I'm like, guys, I'm explaining myself.
Right.
That's Basic Instinct. Why would you watch
Sharon
Basic
Stone.
Instinct? Yeah.
Sharon Stone.
Sharon Stone. I'm watching Basic Instinct. Then I watch, obviously, Casino. She crushed it. What else we got here? Sliver. Okay, I like Sliver. She did some big, she did some stuff there. At one point, you're right. She was
the cat's meow there for a while.
She was.
Yeah.
She was for a minute. And then, boom, Hollywood like this.
Yeah, but there's legendary, famous Hollywood stories about. I'm trying to remember whether it was her or Kim Basinger that had the hot tub scene that she insisted that it be Evian water, and she had them drain the hot tub, and then they had to buy like 1,000.
Tell me you're joking.
No. This
is her or base.
It was one of the two, but I bet you if you Google it, something comes up. But that, yeah, she literally said, "I will not get in the hot tub unless it's Evian," and they had to. The crew had to go out. Did you find it?
Yeah, it says Kim Basinger.
Yeah, it was Kim. It was Kim. So but again, those are those stories.
She was married to Alec.
She was married to Alec. So and those are those stories that when you're a guy that's on set. And I've never forgotten how grateful I am. I'll pick up, camera equipment with my guys if they got to rush it off. I don't care. I'm not, you, where's my coffee? And I'm just not that guy. But then you hear the legendary stories about the guys that are, that they drained the hot tub. She would not get in it. They had to drain it out. And then, now again, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's one of those stories that.
How was Kim though? I mean, you've spent time around Kim. Was she easy going when you guys are just, behind camera?
It was, There was Alec and Kim. I'll tell you this, I lived in Sherman Oaks. You lived in LA for a long time. I lived in Sherman Oaks.
We're in Sherman.
I lived right off of Woodland.
Okay. Yeah.
In the hill there. So I had
Woodland Hills, like close to Woodland Hills?
No,
Woodman?
Woodman.
Got it. Yeah.
So it was Gary Shandling, Brian Benben, and what's her name that he's married to, Brian? Beautiful actress. I can't think of her name. Anyway, and me. We live in a triangle right near each other. We play basketball all the time and stuff. And he lived in Woodland Hills with Kim. In the, I don't know how many years they were together, but 7 or 8. I never was at their house once in my life. I lived 12 minutes from them, not one time. No, think about that. I want you to think about it. I lived, the only 2 of us of 6 that lived in California, we lived 12 minutes away from each other, and I never saw his home once. Now, we'd come by, we'd go play tennis, we played football in a league together, we talked.
But not the house.
He has a very, he keeps it very close, his cards close to the vet. He can come over my house whenever he wanted to, but no, never got invited over.
Has he always been that private?
He's pretty private, with his wife now and their kids. I think he likes to keep home very separate. I thought it was odd that I was his brother and I never once saw his home.
Do you guys have family traditions like annual Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that, or no?
We have, we used to play the Turkey Bowl every Thanksgiving. He would quarterback one team, I would quarterback the other, and the rest of the neighborhood kids. And we played that for many years, even well into our 40s. We played the Turkey Bowl. We'd go back to New York, meet guys on the golf course, and go play.
You guys don't talk anymore now?
No, we don't talk very often now. It's interesting. When my mom passed away, I'm not sure what it did to him. So there was that. And then just recently, his situation in New Mexico, where his wife called along with my sister and said, he could really use your support now. Now, keep in mind, I haven't talked directly to him for months. And suddenly we're going to court. Steven's going to go. Billy was not feeling well. So of the boys to be there. And I said, of course I'll go. So my wife and I bought the tickets. We were leaving on Monday. He got acquitted on Friday. I never had to go. But I have not directly spoken to him. He was here at a show in Atlanta doing some kind of autograph thing, one of those big Comic-Con kind of things. And I just showed up. And I walked over, I talked to him for 3 minutes, and he said, I got to go. That was it. So I don't know how much it is my mom, how much it is some unresolved stuff that we have, he made an announcement. I have decided to realign my relationships with different people in this family now that mom is gone. And so I'm probably going to go a little dark about him. I haven't heard from him. My mother died 2 years ago now.
He made that public
announcement?
Oh,
he made that to me. He let me know that.
To you and Stephen and Billy, or just to you?
He doesn't speak much to multiple members of the family. I'll only keep it about me, though, because I don't want to speak. But between he and I've reached out to him. I say things like, Dad's birthday, and he writes, yes. I called with my son and posted a video to him recently. Nothing. No response. My little 18-month-old boy. You want to say hi to Uncle Xander? And nothing back. So I'm not sure where he's at. I don't know if we'll have that time where we sit and kind of try to figure that out. I'm very sad because, here's a guy that if I go back in my Words with Friends catalog, we played Words with Friends every day for 4 years. Every single day we played. If he was on set, I was on set. We played at least a couple words and would comment, fuck you when I get a big word, right? I get at him and he'd go, we'll see, keep playing, game's not over, and we would talk shit with each other, and go back and forth. But nope, none of that anymore. Don't speak.
That's tough to think about though. Like I'm online right now, I typed in young Baldwin brothers, right? I'll see a picture of a wedding.
Yeah.
I don't know whose wedding this is, but this is someone's wedding you guys are at. Of course, we see the picture that we talked about on when what's his name? When Steven was on, which picture, the one that we just showed right now.
Yeah, the one when I'm holding my crotch.
Yeah, and the one that you're holding your crotch. Yeah. All these pictures, right, that we're looking at.
You bring up a really important and interesting thing that I want to go into if I can.
Please.
Okay, so now take a look at that. How much of it has to do, so with Billy, and I won't break open my phone to read the text messages, but I'll tell you that he wrote me, Billy, a dissertation about all the things with this scumbag criminal about Trump. And how dare could I elect someone who's a known rapist, who's a known this and a this and a this, and all these just scathing, terrible statistical things that he is, again, and I, had brief conversations with him going, Billy, if they're evaluating a piece of land for me and they say, what's it worth? I'm never going to say below the number. I'm probably not going to say the number. I'm going to say I want to borrow money or sell it for more money than it's worth to see what I get for selling it. What you're quoting he is guilty of in his indictments in New York is trying to borrow more money than the property was worth, which they have a guy that comes from the bank that looks at it and says, no, sir, it's only worth this. This is all we're willing to give you. And then you accept the deal. If you made that a crime, there would be 500,000 people in jail over the last 10 years that own real estate in New York. So that to me, again, trying to explain those things and trying to get a word in edgewise when someone hates someone. But here's the more compelling thing, Patrick. The more compelling thing is, when I look, and I'm not saying this is exclusive to the Democrats, but when I look at the number of people in my own life that wrote, you effing loser, communist scumbag, all the stuff they wrote to me because I came out for Trump, the same happened with members of my family. When I had to read and I said, would you really allow an election to affect the relationship with one of your siblings? And my answer back, which stunned from Billy, was pretty much yes.
He said that.
Pretty much yes. That nothing was more important than who was going to take this country. And I went, wow, I'm so sad you think that, because I honor your right to vote and be whoever you want to be. And don't get me wrong, I love my brother Billy. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I admire him. I'm closest to him of my brothers for sure. I named my son William Bat Baldwin. He's William after my brother Billy. The only of our siblings that named one after another one of our siblings is me naming.
Why are you and Billy so close?
I call it a wrestler's mentality. We both wrestled together in high school. I was closest with Alec when I was really little, because Billy was so little. But from, the time I was in 4th or 5th grade and Billy was 2 grades behind me, we played sports together. We did everything, a lot together in our teenage years until I finally went off and left for school. But Billy and I were definitely the closest. And there were times too when Stephen was too young. Remember, I'm a sober drug addict. And so
almost 18 years, right?
Yeah, a long time now. Yeah. And so but Billy never gave up on me. Billy never gave. I will say that Billy wasn't lending me his car for a certain amount of years, because I was pretty irresponsible. But when I kept going through recovery, Billy was always the one that came. Billy would call. Billy would check on me. Billy would travel sometimes with me when I was struggling, and so he was always that brother to me, and vice versa. Billy's had some really hard things in his life. This is, I'm throwing that up. You ready? See that? Mm-hmm. That's the VB crew. That's Vance Baldwin, Billy's son, who years back turned around, and when he was 17, he said, Dad, my one testicle is really sore. It's kind of swollen. And he finds out that his son, 17, has full-blown cancer. And it was bad. It had spread into his stomach and up into his lungs, and it was touch and go there for a little while. So I shaved my head.
He's here, though.
Vance lived. He's a monster and a really good kid. But I remember, watching Billy, tracking Billy go through that, and having him, his son's basketball, because his hair was falling out from the chemo. So if you look on the tattoo, it has these little nubs of hair on it, and checking in on Vance all the time. We're that brother. So when this election took place, and I saw that in some way, in any way, that could crack or fracture or penetrate my relationship with any of my siblings, I was dumbfounded, because that could never. I mean, I've watched Alec do stuff politically, watched him do Trump and on SNL and do the things that he does, and the statements, the wild statements sometimes he makes about, different political offerings and issues that he feels passionately about. I never call him up and tell him he's wrong. Listen, look out the window. What you see is what you see. What I see is what I see. We're never wrong about an opinion. But to let that have an effect on how much you love or time you spend with one of your siblings. Hey, man, we don't have that much time on this planet. I can blink and remember when I was 25. And I'm 64 now. And you know what? I've got a young son and a young wife. And you know what? I'm going to blink and I'm going to be gone. It'll be over. So I don't want to be at arms with my brothers. I don't want to be at arms with anybody, really, unless it's for a cause that benefits the greater good to do so. nothing that my brothers believe in or nothing that my sisters or other people that I care about would I allow that to get involved or get in between me and them. There are people that don't feel that way. And my point that I was trying to make was most of the stuff that I saw that was personal and mean came from the Democratic side. I did not see people over the years when I was a Democrat say, any of the Republican friends of mine say, oh, you asshole, you're a loser, your movies suck, blah, blah, or whatever, or personal attacks on me due to my history. The stuff that I had to endure from Democrats about my brother Alec and his situation, the scathing, awful things that people wrote to me about, him being, all these different terrible things that they described him as over this accident that happened. And guess what? When it happens to one, it's the Baldwin brothers. We're looped in and lumped into one category many times. So I have to endure what all of them do, just like they had to do back in the day with me when I was being irresponsible. Now, I'm not saying Alec was being irresponsible, but I've had to endure a lot publicly in the last couple of years over his problem that he had. A lot.
But you guys backed them up, though. I mean, if you read stories about it, everybody backed them up, right? Everybody had, of what happened.
People don't know the real story.
Right.
People don't know the real story because they weren't there and they don't know, and they didn't get the full description of it. She's the director of photography. Here's the camera pointed at you. Mm-hmm. There's a monitor on the side of the camera that she's looking at the monitor like this, and the camera's pointing at you, and you're Alec. Mm-hmm. And she's directing him through the shot. She's saying, okay, Alec, take the gun out, and he drew the gun. Left, right there. Take it out and do it there again. Do it there. And she's watching, not looking at him. Whatever you're pointing out right there is now tilt the gun a little, and she's walking him through the motions that she wants him to do. So the gun being pointed at her was under her direction. She's telling him where to point the gun.
Wow.
And he pulls the hammer back and the hammer releases. Now, again, let's not even get into the last person that you want to be involved with loading or unloading a gun is the actor. So they've got a professional that's licensed. It's called the armorer. That person somehow loads the weapon. The one that was really, really, I thought the biggest crime, the first assistant director is handed the gun from the armorer. So now I'm not the director, I'm the first assistant director. I take the gun from the armorer.
Yeah.
And I take the gun and I hold it up in front of the entire cast and crew. And I have to say one of two things. Hot gun on set, cold gun on set. Cold gun, meaning it's empty, and to be able to declare the weapon cold, you have to have fired it. If it's a revolver, you have to fire it 6 times. Mm-hmm. So this first assistant director announced cold gun on set, handing it to Alec, which, again, if everyone's chain of command doing their job, there's been a mistake already with a live round put in, and then they gave the first AD immunity initially to testify against Alec. When the armorer would not probably have shot the gun, would have loaded the gun, but he could not announce cold weapon on set. Now, this is my understanding of the situation. So now the gun goes off, goes through her and into the chest of the director. This is a man who's a father of many young children that will never for the rest of his life ever not visualize. He was there. He saw it happen. And this is a mom of an 8-year-old boy at the time and has a husband, and she's forever gone. Oh my God. I mean, like, how do you ever wipe that out of your mind? How do you ever not remember that occurrence? And guess what? None of it was his responsibility, none. So now through the suppression of evidence and whatever it is that the judge found, it's gone finally, and he will not be, he's fully exonerated of any responsibility himself. But you're not going to ever be able to take away the memory of that for him.
It's permanent.
Yeah, no doubt.
And let me ask you, so you think a part of it is the fact that he just doesn't want to be around people. Like, I don't even know if he goes shopping or buy stuff. There was one clip, Rob, where he went to a coffee shop and somebody keeps harassing him. You know what I'm talking
she's
about?
holding the phone at him, telling him.
This is you. Hey, you're what does she say? There's something about, like, hey, she keeps saying something. She keeps saying something. She keeps saying something. And then he's just finally kind of like late. This is the one, Rob? Go ahead and play.
You say free Palestine one time.
Yeah, Palestine.
Not even lady? About.
Right.
You kill that lady and got no jail time? No jail time, Alec?
Sorry.
No jail time, Alec. You're putting innocent people in jail, Alec Baldwin.
I'm so sorry.
Free Palestine, Alec, just one time. And I'll leave you alone. I'll leave you alone. I swear. Just say free Palestine one time. One time. One time.
Call the police.
One time, Alec. You know he's a criminal. You know he's a criminal.
You can
Come
pause
on,
it right
Alec.
there.
Okay, so again, that's the that's the video you're watching of the little tiger going like this and batting. And does the big tiger ever go, and tear it up and kill it? No. And we've learned over the years that you can provoke him. You can provoke him.
Yeah, I've seen that many times with
photographers, whatever.
Yep.
And the famous case of when they were trying to get the picture of Ireland when she was born, and he laid out the photographer who he claims the photographer hit him with the camera out in front of his house. But again, you can provoke him. So I've always been the one that have said, go right back at him and say little things and whisper. Let them hit you first, and then it's green light. If they put their hands on you, you can tear them to shreds. Yeah. But he's never been able to hold out, that long.
I wonder, like, for me, when he was famous and when he was popular, was he the most popular kid in high school?
He was pretty popular. He's very handsome, smart guy, played football,
So he's popular. So
he's popular, for
top,
sure.
Like, he's one of the most popular kids in school.
Very popular,
Okay,
yes.
and how did he handle it? Was he an asshole? Was he a jerk? Was he
No.
he chill? Was he? What was his personality like when
I think
he would get the attention?
I think you're always struggling to be cool. That was how cool were you, not how popular. For me, the light was because of sports. For sure, I was one of the best athletes. I played 3 sports. I lettered every year. For him, I think he was one of the cool kids. He hung around with the cool crowd, and the girls really liked him. He was very, very handsome. So, yeah.
Was he naturally cooler than Billy?
Yeah, he was different cool than Billy. Billy was an athlete too, so Billy hung around with me and Billy hung around with the jockey guys. Alec hung around with some of those guys, but he also had the like I said, the cool guys. He was cool. I when I walked around school, I was Alec's brother, Alec Baldwin. That guy who's cool.
And when shit would hit the fan, was he a fight, flight, or freeze guy?
He would scrap. I would take Billy in a scrap with me before I would take Alec, because Billy was such a good wrestler. Billy can handle himself. Yeah, don't kid yourself. He was a strong kid, really gifted wrestler, very dedicated and pretty tough. So
I guess what I'm saying with Alec, it was Alec the one that said, "Hey, shit, I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm just out of here. I'm done. I'm gonna go. Don't call me. Don't talk to me." Was he that guy? Was like, "What'd you say?" Or was he like, which one?
He might be a little bit what you say.
Freeze?
He probably
Or flight?
He'd say what you say. He wouldn't run. He wouldn't run for sure. But I don't know that he was the guy that would. There's different. My father would say, once he touches you, do what you got to do. Once he touches you, and I was the one that went. There's 3 of them. I'm knocking the biggest one out now. I'm not waiting for anybody to touch. Like, I didn't care. So I don't think he was. He was a combination of maybe a little bit of me and a little bit of more reserved.
Got it. No, the only reason I asked that question is because for the last 5 years, I've been tough with that guy. It's not been an easy 5 years for him.
No.
I mean,
it's been rough.
And Trump wins. Are you kidding me? And Trump wins. But I saw him the other. Didn't he do a impersonation of Bobby? He did an impersonation of R.F. Kennedy Jr.
Did he?
Didn't he? SNL. Yeah, I thought he did something with. If he did, Rob, I don't know if we can show it. Can we show it or no?
Yeah, commentary.
Okay, if you want to show this, which one is in here?
But if Trump wins, he gets 4 more years on SNL. That's a bad.
That's a good thing for him, right? But where is he? Is he coming up?
He comes in.
Okay,
yep.
let's see it.
From Congress, because the confirmation process comes at the busiest time of year for me.
The holidays?
Girls volleyball season.
Who is that supposed to be?
Matt Gaetz.
Anyway, I'll leave you be. You've got another jacked king here to see you, RFK Jr. Bobby.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to tell you again, I'm so honored to be the head of the Health and Human Services Department. Americans need someone to teach them how to be healthy, someone like me, a 70-year-old man with movie star looks and a worm in his brain. My
Bobby, I love you. I can't wait to see what you do with this country in terms of health and with regard to measles outbreak.
I care deeply about a woman's right to choose to give her child polio. I just wish people would take my appointment more seriously. All right, I gotta go. I got a dead dolphin in my car. I think I might saw it in half and dump it in Central Park. I'll let you know, hey.
How's the reaction? Watching it, how are you processing it?
I watched him in his one Academy Award nomination. When I watch these things, it takes me back to when I was a little kid. So he gets nominated for The Cooler. Now, I don't know if you ever saw that movie,
no.
But he's wonderful in it, and it's a cool movie. Billy Macy, and so it's one time Alec gets nominated Best Supporting Actor, and so and I didn't see the movie. It was an indie. It's rare that a film like that gets these kinds of nominations. But so of course now my brother's nominated for an Oscar. I got to go see the movie, and I watch it, and I called him and I said, "That's what you got nominated for?" I go, "You got nominated for making fun of the fathers of every Italian kid in our neighborhood." We've been doing that voice and doing that character for 50 years, and now he gets nominated for an Oscar for that. I got a great story to tell you. What are the odds of this happening? So, did you see the movie 8 Men Out?
Say that again?
8 Men Out.
Hang on 1 second.
Very famous baseball story.
I have not.
About the Chicago Black
Charlie
Sox
Sheen
scandal.
and I've not seen it.
So, during the research, John Sayles, the director, is researching Matewan, the mining story, and he sees all this press going back in the clippings and everything about the Chicago White Sox fix the World Series. So the character is Chick Gandil, who's the first baseman on the White Sox, and he knows from one of the other players that they're going to fix the game. So they're in a bar, and he walks up in the bar. And he wants to tell some kind of story to let these guys know he'd be in on it without saying, so-and-so told me you're fixing it. So he goes in and he says, hey, Bubba, and he tells him this boxing story. And he said, my nose is broke, my eyes shut, and I'm stepping on something underneath my feet. It's the other guy's teeth. And I'm thinking to myself, Bubba, but we messed up. What I should have done. And I stand up from the table, which is not in the direction. And I say, I hit him a few times, pow, pow. And I say pow, pow, and I throw 2 lefts. He hits me a few times, pow, pow. And later on we meet and we split the money 50-50 and nobody gets hurt. Now I'm in the waiting room and Barbara Clayman, one of these, or whoever it was, legendary casting director, says, I don't know, he's doing some movie, Beetlejuice or some other movie he's doing right now. He's not available, but his brother's out there, looks just like him, and he played baseball in high school. Chick Gandil is described as the strongest hands in baseball. He's a tough guy. So I'm going, wow, they wanted Alec for this. This is beautiful. Alec can't do it. I play baseball, World Series, let's go. So I go in and I do the audition. She tapes me. They call me back. John Sayles would like to meet you. I said, great. I go in, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this a big movie. Early in my career, I go in and Sayles goes, so obviously you rehearsed this with your brother Alec. And, and actually we were interested in Alec for it. So I'm very interested. And I went, I did not rehearse this with my brother Alec. He went, it's okay that you rehearsed it with him. It's obvious that you're... Barbara, could you get Alec Baldwin's tape and bring it in here, please? And they put it in. He stands up and says, pow, pow, and throws 2 lefts. He takes 2 rights and goes, and later on we meet and we split the money 50-50 and nobody gets hurt, and does the exact same 3 pantomimes that I did that were not in the script. How do you get this guy to believe I did not rehearse that with him? But you know what? That's how similar sometimes it was in that house. That I watched myself do that thing and I thought, he stole my shit. Now I'm not going to get the movie. And I didn't get it. He
didn't get it either. I mean,
he was doing something else. He wasn't available. So I thought I was in.
So the only person that knows the validity of the story is Alec. 100%. It's just you and him.
If he remembers auditioning for that movie, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a few of those, though. There's been a few of those where I've watched him do something and I go, I did that and blah, 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 blah. Or he did it and then I stole it. Because I thought it was cool.
Was he the better actor? Was he the best actor in the family, in your opinion?
No, I don't know. How do you say that someone's a better actor? There's certainly things that he does very, very well. He certainly was the more successful theater actor. I mean, he's been on Broadway. But nah, I don't I don't believe him that much in the action films and stuff. I think I beat him in that category. Is there really? I don't know how you can say better. You know, I'm not sure you can say that. I remember reading really nervous. I was reading for Steven Spielberg for Jurassic Park, and in the waiting room are some big actors. You know, and I'm like, why am I reading for Steven Spielberg? I mean, come on. You know, I mean, this is for the lead to play the paleontologist that Sam eventually got. So I go in, a big Amblin, huge table. They walk me in, and I get to the end. He goes, "Did you get a chance to read the book?" And I've never met Spielberg, and he's already a huge legend, right? And I said, "Yes, sir, I did. I read the book." He said, and I said, "I read it twice." And I said, he goes, "Okay, great. Well, listen, I'm very interested." Now, I've never been thrown in an audition before in my life. Okay.
Thrown
off base. Like I'm usually ready. I'm pretty intense that way. And so he turns around and he said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Can I be honest?" And he goes, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "Why am I here?" I said, "You've got 4 Oscar-nominated actors out there reading for this character. I imagine because of how old they are." I said, he goes, "You did Ned Blessing, His Life and Times, that movie." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You played Ned?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "Well, I tried to buy the rights to that movie to make it my next Indiana Jones. I want to do a series of 3 movies." And Bill Whitliff, who wrote it, said, no, he wanted to do it as a TV series because he thought there was 50 stories.
Who's telling you this?
This is Spielberg.
He's telling you this.
Spielberg. I'm sitting in the room to audition for Jurassic Park without asking him, why am I reading for this when, all these giant actors are out there? So he goes, well, so logically when the TV movie came out, he said, I watched it. He said, and you know what? I think you're going to be the next Gary Cooper. I think your subtleness and the way you portrayed this character was seamless. And because I watched that, I asked them to bring you in because I think you'd be good to play. Now, Steven Spielberg just told me that he thinks I'm going to be the next Gary Cooper. I'd pay for that to be able to, have that in my career. So I'm sitting there, I'm going, Steven Spielberg just said I'm going to be the next Gary Cooper. He goes, are you ready to read? And I went, and I got half a page down and I went, can I stop? I realized I wasn't on, and I said, do you mind, Steven, if I go in the other room and I refocus? I didn't tell him why. And I went in and they brought in, Sam Waterston or whoever it was, they eventually got it. Billy was one of the guys who, so they said, if it's, if he's 50 and up, it's this guy. If he's 45 to 50, it's this guy. If it's 40 to 50, it's Daniel Baldwin. If it's 35 to 40, it's Billy Baldwin. Billy was up for the same character in the room waiting. So I leave. Of course, I didn't get it. They went with the older actor. But I remember walking out of there thinking to myself, wow, Steven Spielberg noticed my work. He noticed what I did, and something completely different than this. Again, that and a $1.50 gets you on the subway. But I remember taking that with me. I remember taking certain things, because you asked the question of who's the better actor. I've never won a big major award in acting, but I've won a lot of film festivals and a lot of things. But I'll say this. I'm proud to be able to say that I've worked my entire career, that I always still have another movie coming out. I've directed movies, which none of my brothers have done. I've written several movies, which none of them, well, I guess they've rewritten, but I don't know if they've written any, and certainly none of them ever directed. I've even directed all of my brothers in films. And I've also done documentaries, which none of them have done, that they actually wrote them, directed them. And I did one that I'll turn you on to. You got to watch it.
How competitive are you guys as brothers? Like, is it a super competitive environment?
It is, but I think that when you're talking about the acting thing, how do you not acknowledge that Alec is, he's the biggest star, There's no kind of, that was that commercial I did that, he's a big movie star, so I never got to be a big movie star, but I've gotten to be a very successful character working actor. And what I found is that my niche is probably in directing, that I'm a pretty good director.
How often do people say, hey, what's up, Alec? How often?
Oh, my God.
Is it every day?
Nah, we're not as famous as we used to be. It used to be we walked around and everyone, would say, hey, and then the paparazzi would take your picture. Now I walk up to people and they go, yeah, it's a black Mercedes, pull it up front. They have no idea who I am. But, it's funny because someone said to me, they were taking a picture in the airport. It's just not that long ago. And the mother goes, Gail, take a picture of Daddy and I with Mr. Baldwin. And, you do the pose. And then she said, Gail, don't you want your picture? She went, no. And I went, and she said, and she went, Mom. And I went, you want to see me make your daughter want to have her picture taken with me? And she looked at me and she went, yeah. And her father went, I bet you can. I said, you want to bet? I said, Hailey Bieber, Justin Bieber's wife, is my niece. And she turned around and she went, you're related to Hailey? I'm jumping up and down, going crazy. And I thought that was funny. I've been reduced now to being Hailey's uncle. That's where I am.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal nowadays.
She and he are monstrously big, for sure. For sure. But no, I've never disillusioned myself to say they're saying Harrison Ford, Alec Baldwin, Clint Eastwood, or Daniel Baldwin. Those conversations didn't ever take place. And I'm okay with that.
Was there ever a story about Alec was supposed to play the fugitive instead of Tommy Lee Jones? Is there a story with that? Or I don't know why.
There was a story. Well, actually, Harrison Ford should have just wrote Alec a check, because there was not just the fugitive, but there was another, Hunt for Red October. So Alec did Hunt for Red October, which was the Clancy series. And then because he had promised that he would do this play, and he said, can you guys wait for me? They used that. I think it was Mace Neufeld turned around and said, yeah, you're gone. And they hired Harrison, which he ended up doing 2 or 3 more of those. Then The Fugitive, I believe the story was that Alec had the rights to it. And he had the rights to the TV series. I think it was David Jensen, was it? He had the rights to the series. And then when he let that expire, Harrison and his guys grabbed it and developed the rest of it into the movie that, again, was very, very successful. So there's a couple of big breaks that Harrison Ford got that he owes to Alec, or at least
how do you know, though, right? Like, how do you know when you're like, I don't know if that movie's going to do good or not? How do you know? Like, is there a way of knowing it? You're not going to know. It's a crapshoot, right?
When do you know? I'm in shooting 2 movies, East Coast and West Coast, and I'm in Delaware shooting Broadway Brawler, a hockey movie with Bruce Willis, when Bruce was absolutely like one of the biggest, Die Hard, all of it. And I'm shooting this movie, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like the girlfriend's brother, his best friend. I'm in this movie a lot. And I'm like, here we go. We're on the A game movie-wise now with a lead. And then whatever happened to him personally, some stuff went down that suddenly the movie got shut down. Then we went back. Then it got shut down again, and it never got finished. And I thought, what causes that? What causes Ishtar to have, the actors that it had in it and then bomb at the box office because of a snowstorm on the East Coast when it opened that weekend? Is there really any way to know? There's no way to know. You can put together the biggest names in Hollywood. And if you look at which names and you look at the movies they did in the last 10 years, there's 9 movies that Wahlberg did that no one's ever seen. They just shelved them and they released them on straight to video. Straight to video has changed the business so much. So many channels are available for you to watch the material that's on that it's diluted the quality. You could make all kinds of stuff now. In the horror genre, you put 4 kids going camping together in a camera with some blood, and someone's going to watch that. It's a huge genre for kids, and they make these movies for micro, but under 100,000. And they do well. So what's well if you make it for 100,000? If it makes $500,000 over the course of 3 years, 5 times your money. It's 5x. That's a successful film
for sure. With a low budget tap. I remember one time I'm in L.A. My wife buys me a gift, a 1-hour session with Aaron Spicer. He's an acting coach, for Will Smith, J-Lo, some of these guys. And I'm like, hey man, I have some interest in acting. He says, how do you do with downtime? I said, what do you mean? He says, what happens when you're not working? I said, no, my mind needs to, I need to work always. He says, well, this just may not be the business for you. I said, why? He says, because 90% of the time you're not working. 80, 90% of the time you're not working. And when you're working, you're working. But you're not working most of the time. And what are you going to do during that season? How tough is it as an actor, to learn to keep yourself occupied during the downtime so you don't pick up bad habits?
For me, it wasn't, well, I shouldn't say totally wasn't the downtime, but I think for me, the harder part was the Len Bias. Remember Len Bias? Len Bias was the basketball player from the University of Maryland.
Yeah, of course.
The Celtics drafted him.
Yes.
They gave him a $500,000 signing bonus, and he OD'd.
There was a documentary on it, right, where he He did cocaine or something happened.
Yes.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yes. So for me, it was being the son of a school teacher and then being handed that kind of money. I mean, my agent, Karan, her name was, and I'm driving a convertible down, Wilshire Boulevard, down by the water there, by where Wilshire meets Ocean, and she calls up and she goes, "Hey, this is back when cell phones were in a box this big. Remember the giant?
Of course, the 2000. Yeah,
right. So she calls up and she said, "Well, look, guess what? They want you to test for the TV show with Valerie Bertinelli." America's sweetheart, Valerie Bertinelli, married to Eddie Van Halen, and she's doing this new show called Sydney. It was me, Matthew Perry, Craig Bierko, Barney Martin, Valerie Bertinelli, blah, blah, blah. So Rebecca Bush, a nice cast, in a sitcom. So I said, okay. And she said, so look, I've got them at 15,000 now. She said, but I think I can get, I'm going to counter at 20. And I think I'll get somewhere around 17.5. And you would go to work, if you get it, it works next week. And I said, okay, well, hang on a second. So that's how many episodes? And she said 13. And I said, okay. So that's over $1,000 a week at 15,000. I go, we're not going to lose the 15 if you counter it. She starts laughing. And I said, why are you laughing? And she went, no, honey, it's $15,000 an episode. And I remember I had to pull my car over. My father made $22,000 a year. I had no idea what we were dealing with. And so she said, no, honey, no, I'm going to try to get 17,500 times 13. I went, 17,000. I'm like, they're going to pay me that to go up there and go, hey, baby. I was like the stupid bar guy, And I thought, really? And I got it. And they paid 17.5, whatever it was, to start the first season. And I just thought, wow, that like the perspective of it is so insane. I sat there and I said 7 to 10 lines a show. I was the funny guy in the corner, and the rest was history. I never stopped working since then, but I'll never forget having that moment of going, $17,500 a week. And this is in 88 or something like that,
It's a lot of money. I mean, for the average person, it's a lot of money today, but
right.
88, it's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, And I can't, I'm thinking, but the same thing will be true of the why I make movies myself now, because I'd be sitting across from the guy, whoever he was, the producer of the movie, the exec, the guy who owns the negative. And he'd say to me, and they're paying me, whatever, 6 figures, low, middle, whatever, depending upon where I am in my career. And I'd say, what does this guy know about acting, about writing, about directing? He knows nothing, or very little. Nothing that I don't know by now, after 30, 40 films into it. And I've done over 150 movies. So I'm looking at this guy going, why am I doing this for him for $200,000 when I could make it myself? Because if he's paying me too, what's he making by the time he pays everybody? He's got to be making $5 million at least or more. Why don't I do this myself? Now, it's not like I made that many movies that sold for so much money, but certainly there's a lot more money involved when you own it than when you work for somebody else. And I'd much rather do a cool indie film. And again, if you're thinking about calling me and you want the Trump guy, then call me up and I'll go be in your big feature film. But because of my stance politically, I don't think I'm in any of those conversations. Even in smaller parts now, they don't want anything to do with me.
So how do you make money today? What's your method?
I make movies myself. And I'm about to come to ValueNet with my podcast.
Oh, are you really?
No, I was just throwing that out. So I could walk out and say, what are you kidding me? Patrick said. Yeah, no, I was an ESPN analyst on a show with them, a podcast with them. And then before that, I was on Best Damn Sports Show period for Fox.
I think the story you were going to at that time, when you went to the story you were saying to Valerie Bertinelli, is when I asked you on the downtime. Where were you going to go with the downtime?
Well,
were you going to make a point about when you did have downtime, what it was like?
Yeah, yes. So I think what was more important was when I brought up the story about the money was, what do you do when someone Len biases you and drops off, $200,000, $300,000? I never had money like that. I had no idea what it was like to have that kind of money. Now you're on the list in the downtime, you're in the club, and there's everybody, every face. You're at Cher's house at a party, because you're on TV. And suddenly I had access to things that were ridiculous. And now, again, I'm not a Sheen. I'm not a Carradine. I'm not one of these famous people from famous families that they've been parading these people in front of me my whole life. This is all new to me. And when you're 29 and you're making $500,000 a year from a family that made $22,000 a year, and your brother's really famous too, and your other brothers are coming up and blah, blah, and you're all now, when you become part of pop culture, when in the movie Clueless, they say, he's a Baldwin, Or when they say, South Park says, we need to entice the United States into a war. We must hit them where it hurts them most. I know. We'll bomb the Baldwin brothers' Bel Air complex, and the jets fly over and drop nuclear bombs to entice the U.S. to get. And again, so my agent calls me up and goes, you got to go see South Park. I'm like, South Park, the movie South Park? Yeah, I don't watch the series. I'm on it. You need to go see. So of course I put the baseball cap on. I go into the theater. I watch. I get the joke, But again, when you're part of that kind of, we had a run. We had a nice run there for 15 years.
How long did it last? 15 years?
Yeah, I'd say something like that.
Is this it? Is this the Baldwin? We
Here it is. Look at the Hollywood sign in the background.
I don't know if we can show this one. Okay, this one's going to come back. Yeah, so that's pretty. But 15-year run. So 15 years. It's partying. What was it like? As crazy and intense that you would imagine it to be? Was it pretty wild?
Yeah, I mean.
Cher's house, all these,
Yeah, man, you walk into China Club and they've got, armed guys walking you in up to the VIP. They walk up to people who have all kinds of money. They've been spending money. Move, and they move them off the table and you're just sitting there like this, smiling at the guy, at his wife, at his girlfriend, going, you can stay, you got to go. It was surreal, so.
Who was the wildest guy you met where you're like, damn, I was just invited to this person's party? Who was?
I would always say, if I write the book, right? If I write the book, now you tell me this, you obviously probably know this more than I would. If I write the book and I say, so I go to the door in the hotel and I open the door and there's so-and-so and I name him. His name is Charlie. So I go to the door and I say, and Charlie is waiting me with, the two girls and we end up going in the room and it's on for 3 straight days. No one sleeps, blah, blah. Now, if I don't say the guy's name and I say, and so another A-list actor or another guy or another, does that book sell the way it is if I say the guy's name?
No.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So if I write my story, the names, this is kind of like, not Epstein kind of stuff or P. Diddy, but the wild, 2 girls and 3 guys and the stuff that I saw, when I'd be at someone's house, there wasn't anything illegal besides maybe some of the paraphernalia that was being used drug-wise, but I saw some wild stuff and I was pretty naive to it because do you want to be with Angela and so? And I go, no, why would I want to be more than one? I only have 2 hands, and so I never did any of that. I never, did that kind of freaky or wild stuff, but I definitely, put myself in situations that were high risk because of, look at Charlie now. Charlie Sheen, Charlie's, has AIDS and I think he's doing well, but, I definitely hung around with that crew, a lot of those guys in the late 80s and early 90s and, a lot of big NBA basketball players that I went to parties at their homes and, where it was on, it was wild.
I remember one time Magic told a story. Have you seen that Magic interview where he says, so what was it like? He says, yeah, 10, 12, 14 girls at a time.
Yeah.
Have you seen that interview?
I haven't seen that interview, but I've been to parties where you went into the hot tub and they just all had their clothes off and you could, it was Babylonian, I called it. When you look at the stuff that they depicted that happened in Babylon and everything, fortunately for me, that just never did anything for me.
Really?
No,
That's great.
It never really did anything for me. Now, was I ever with, one woman at a time? I never strayed the heterosexual line, but I definitely was with women I didn't know very well, and was in situations that I'm not proud of now.
Yeah, and that's the interview. Obviously, we're not going to watch it. It's 18 minutes, but I've seen that interview. No, look, I lived in LA 26 years. When I got out of the Army and I'm 21, it was just, but when you're a celebrity in movies in the 80s in LA, you're going to all the main clubs, nightlife, the insanity. I can only imagine the stories. But last question on Alec before we wrap up here.
Tell me.
You said after your mom, he said, I'm going to go on a blackout and I'm just kind of going to be to myself.
Yeah.
Right? He said that to you.
Yeah.
How much of it do you think is mom from 2 years ago? And how much of it do you think it's, what happened with the event that happened in New Mexico, the movie, where it's just like, dude, I've had so much, I'm done. I'm going away from everybody. which one do you think influenced it more? I mean, mom is tough when that happens.
And I throw into that category our history. He and I have definitely butted heads a number of times. I thought we were through that. I thought we had definitely come. We were the closest we've been 4 years or so ago for a good 5-year run. We were as close as we've been in a long.
And this
long
is a time where he knows you're a Trump guy. So it's not like you're not a Trump guy and you guys are still close.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Trump guy thing was he had a run with Stephen that wasn't very favorable because Stephen came out of the closet about Trump and backed him, which is what my problem with Stephen was this time, because he suddenly wasn't involved in politics when it was going to be close, and I thought this was the time to, if you're going to talk about what you believe as Christian and but for his own reasons, he decided that he was not going to be involved in politics this time out. I, on the other hand, came out hard. I mean, if you go back, I'll send you some stuff, where I just come right out and I go, yeah, we elect this woman and we're going to lose it all.
I remember TMZ 2016 when she lost. You're like, you lost. What do you want to do? Go be about your business. You lost and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I think that I came out harder this time and it offended people that really wanted her. But you're going to lose sometimes. You're going to win. Dust off, get up, and what are you going to do about it? When you look at Hillary when she lost, I know a number of people, including family members, that didn't ever think he was going to win. They just didn't think he could do it. So they didn't do everything they did for other people that were running before in other campaigns. They weren't as vehement in their backing and their financial situations and so on, because they just didn't think he could do it, and he did. So this time, I think they knew he was the threat, and they just lost. I mean, look at the number of people in the overall vote, too. This wasn't just Electoral College. America spoke, and each one of those states to lose, they did not want her. And I love listening to people saying that the reason why is because she was a woman, and that's the big factor. And I don't think so. I think it's because they didn't believe her. I think the American people, particularly men, did not trust that she was qualified to be president based on her performance as vice president and this current administration.
I think Hillary was 10 times more qualified, not likable. I think Kamala was not qualified and not likable and not a talent. She's probably the worst candidate they've ever put up. Josh Shapiro would have stood a better chance than she did. So would have Newsom. And even AOC would have done better than she did. And AOC is semi-socialist. So Kamala was a horrible candidate.
Yeah, she was a bad choice. But you know what's really interesting is to look at, I've looked at now who the front runners in 28 are going to be. And they actually are saying, the Democrats, that she's the front runner, number one. And I thought, what's she going to do to stay viable? Is she going to write a book? She's going on tour? She's going back to the Senate?
Yeah.
I mean, can she go back to the Senate?
Yeah. I don't know if she can. They're trying to get her a different job. Right now she's doing the $200,000 keynotes, to kind of get some money there. And who said it best that they said she tried to be like Obama and she's not? Who was the former Democratic major donor, right? That said
John Morgan from Morgan & Morgan.
Right. And he's like,
oh, yeah, I know John.
You're not Kamala. You're not Obama. Stop trying to be Obama. Did you see the Jane Fonda podcast with Bill Maher?
When she was talking about getting older and that she's old now. But I saw that.
Did you see when they talked about California and politics and all that stuff going back and forth?
I didn't see that part. I didn't see that part.
I think it's worth for you to watch because I thought Bill did actually a very good job with the interview. And I actually thought Jane was being honest, where she's kind of like, yeah, I don't think that's what you think it is. Maybe it is. Maybe I don't watch any news on maybe I only watch CNN. Maybe I don't. And she was actually kind of going through having her own. I think you'd benefit from watching it because, her background being where she was at before in what do you call it? In Hollywood. But it'd be interesting. I thought it was good watching what Bill is doing. And Bill is a guy that's a Democrat. He voted for Kamala. He doesn't think she's a good candidate. He's not going to vote for Trump. He's not a Trump guy. But at least Bill will have moments where you're like, okay, cool. He's reasoning and he's kind of going through himself. He sounds more like a reasonable Democrat than what they're putting up there right now.
Here's where my real problem with it is. I believe that America has spoken. This guy's the president. And I said early on, and this included Trump, I know Donald. I've worked for Donald. I've met Donald. I've spent time with him, blah, blah, blah. He's donated to my mother's breast cancer fund multiple times. Stephen did The Apprentice, blah, 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 blah. Do I like every single thing about any No, about their personality, but he's won now. So since he's won, can we not figure out a way? This is Nixon again now. Can we not figure out a way to work together to move forward? Again, it might not be your exact platform, but aren't there some common things that we can reach across the aisle to agree on? That, like lowering groceries, security in our cities, and it's just stuff that are no-brainers. And it seems like every single thing he brings up is going to be met with this force of, and I remember listening to Rosie. Now I know Rosie O'Donnell all the way back to the first movie she ever did, and Rosie just hates Trump. They don't like each other. It's very well known. They talk terrible things about each other right on camera. And but even she, when Biden did that debate, she turned around and she said, "Get him out!" She was all over getting him out of there right away, and she was a Biden person. Why would we not all look at, are these the two best people that we had? These were the two best people, the most talented people that we had in the Republican and Democratic Party to run for president of the most powerful nation, the most powerful economy, one of the most powerful in any one of those categories, a war machine, blah, blah, military. These two, Kamala Harris and even Donald Trump. Donald Trump is getting up there in years. I think he looks at things differently. I'm a supporter by far. I'm certainly a huge supporter versus her, but they're the most talented. So do we get a fresh injection after this Vance? Is he the guy that goes?
Yeah, are you familiar with the chart about competency versus confidence, where, IQ is rarely a reflection of those who lead big enterprises or the country. It's rarely IQ. It's confidence. We give way too much credit to competency. Competency doesn't necessarily mean that you're confident enough to deliver the message to an audience to get, have conviction behind it and persuade others to say, you're my guy, right? So it takes a confident person to go up and run. I think where he's at right now, and with all the issues that we have going on, for you to overcome all the challenges the last 12 months to be up there, DeSantis has been here. Trump was here a month ago. We've had a lot of the candidates that are here. As smart and competent as DeSantis is as a governor, he's not a president. To be president, you need confidence. And that confidence and the swagger, which, by the way, partly I watch Alec, I'm like, is there a part in Alec that thinks, he's a motherfucker, I could have been the president. I could have been the freaking president. You have no clue. I would have freaking crushed it. Let me tell you who I would have been if I would have been and I think certain things in your life you can't even talk to your wife about. It's you versus you. Maybe your siblings know about it because they go back and say, I remember when we were 9 years old how Dad talked to us. Mm-hmm. I remember when we were 12 years old, that one time when Dad walked us outside and such what's going on. I said, watch this video on Walter Cronkite. Remember that one night? You'll remember it. He'll remember it, right? I wonder sometimes if it's kind of like, maybe it's not even envy. It's just a spirit of competition to say, dude, if that motherfucker, I could have been one myself.
If I had, you mentioned about your acting and taking lessons in Los Angeles. If I could have sat for 6 sessions with Hillary Clinton, she'd be president of the United States now. She needed an acting lesson. She needed to learn how to hold back, how to smile a little bit more, how to deliver like an anchor person. She needed those kinds of lessons, how to be, even if she wasn't the things that I was trying to teach her to be, she needed to learn how to act like it because she was very unapproachable. She had a very she should, every time Trump sent something to her in those, she should have gone and just a little, but not the, and the faces and all, and it made her unattractive. She's a woman. Be attractive. Be attractive to people. Make them want to vote for you. You're right about the confidence thing. I never looked at her and felt like I could relate to her. I didn't. Now, Bill Clinton was a genius. He was a genius at
Till
this.
today, by the way.
So I turned around and I'm dating before I was married. I'm with another significant other, and we go to the roast for Alec on Spike TV. And she goes to me. She's got the big Bill Clinton book on her table. She's a huge Clinton fan. You can see she's wriggling to meet him. So Bill comes out. He does his piece on Alec, and me and Billy, De Niro, all these other people.
It's 5 years ago.
Yeah, make fun of Alec. And so we get done, and there's the Secret Service guys off in the wing, and there's Clinton. And I walk up and I say, Mr. President, nice to meet you. I said, my friend would love to meet you. And she walks right up to him and she goes, I'm his better half. And Bill turns around and takes a step back and he goes, looks her right up and down. Well, I can see that. He turned around and he says it right to her. But he didn't do it gross. He did it, he was Bill Clinton. It was charming. It was complimentary. It was a little sexual. You liked him. He was engaging. She was never engaging to me.
Yeah, I was in Hope, Arkansas for my father-in-law's funeral. He passed away. This is October of 2015, give or take. And we go there, and we're driving up. While I'm there, we go to this funeral home called Brazil, the Brazil Funeral Home, but it's like Brasille, something like that. So the owner comes out, I'm paying the bill for, the ceremony and everything. I said, let me ask you a question. How do you guys feel about Bill Clinton here locally? Is it true that he is a playboy? He says, oh, yeah, for sure he is. Can you go to images? That's exactly the one. Brazil, okay, there you go. Oak Crest Funeral Home. Can you zoom into the images just to kind of see the images part? No, the other one, Rob. That's exactly the one. Just go to the top and type in images, Rob. Just right there, images. Yeah, that's the one. Right there. That's the one. So we're at this place, and I say, is it true that Bill Clinton was a playboy? Oh, yeah. Is it true that he would flirt and be whoever he was, sleeping around? Absolutely. Did you guys have a problem with that? That he was like, not at all. I said, why don't you have a problem with that? He says, you ever met his wife? I said, no. He says, she is the meanest person we've ever met in our lives. He says, we're Republicans. He says it to you. I said, we're Republicans. He says, but we loved him. He was great. Her, we couldn't stand her. She was rude to all of us all the time. And one time I think like his uncle died or something, and he was there reading the eulogy, and not Joy Behar, Bette Midler, is that the singer? Bette Midler's there, and they're about to go. Yeah. And she's like, I'm going back to fucking, not going to stay here with everybody. You go out there with your friend and do whatever you need to do. And it's like, oh, okay, no problem. He goes, and then she goes back home. But, it's these types of stories that comes out when you learn about the charming, the charm. To become a president, you have to have your own element of charm and charisma. I just wonder if your brother sits there and says, I could have been a president myself. And that is...
I think he still could.
Yeah. Well,
I think he still could. And he's had some stuff happen that have been real blows to the ability for him to do that. But I think if he started with a Senate seat, I think if he ran in New York, where he's very, very popular, and I think that if he could get the agreement with his wife to let him pursue that, he's 65, 66
You
now.
think he likes people?
Yes, I think he cares. I think his scope politically is narrow. It's very focused on on that group, on the Democrats, but again, I think he still could, but he wouldn't get to presidency for at least 8 or more years. Which I'm looking at the clock, how old he is. But nowadays you can run at 78.
Super
79
young at this age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, when we sit down, we go through guests to have on a podcast and say, hey, how about this guy? But I have my own list, and they come up, okay, here's what we're thinking. Baldwin's, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Guys, I have no idea where we're going to go with this. And I was like, damn, that was so. And then you leave, you have the conversation. What a freaking great conversation I had. And then from there to now, you sitting down with having a conversation with you. I've enjoyed learning about the family. I got 2 boys. And my affinity with these types of stories is, how do you keep everybody together later on when you're no longer here? Your father, passed away at 55 years old, and your mother 2 years ago. And, seeing the fragmented relationships now where, everybody's kind of to himself, how do you as a parent make sure to keep everybody together when you're no longer here? It's not an easy task. It's very hard to do, to be able to do that. And stories either inspires you to kind of think about it and say, well, just make sure when later on this is going on, you think about this. But it's definitely very interesting, to say the least, to hear the stories, both from your point of view as well as Stephen's when he was here 2.5 months ago.
Mm-hmm. I think a key, my wife knows this. My wife will say, it's God, it's us, and then the kids. And we have to be at the top of that. And I used to look at that and go, the kids don't come before. No, we come. And she's right. And I'll tell you why. If my father looked at where things were now, I think he'd be disappointed in some of it. I think he would. I think there were times, I remember when Billy was working at summer school, and he would walk around and patrol the bike racks, and so that because kids all rode their bicycles, and there was an epidemic of bikes being stolen, so they hired 2 boys to walk around this massive complex, and some kid, they were robbing bikes, and they grabbed Billy and they got him in a corner and they roughed him up some. And I remember, and I was like,
how old is Billy? How old is he?
Billy's got to be, I guess I'm like 13 or 14, so Billy's like 11 or 12.
Has he started wrestling yet or not yet?
Yeah, he's wrestled, but these were like senior and high school kids. And I was an inordinately big kid. At 14, I was 6 foot, 190.
Do you guys have a reputation as brothers? Like, don't mess with the Baldwin brothers, or not yet?
I definitely have a reputation of don't mess with me.
Yeah.
And so I remember my father just gave me Billy came home. He was blackened up a little bit. My father went, "Take care of it tomorrow." That's all he said. "Take care of it tomorrow." And of course, I found the kid and just beat the crap out of him and made an example of him to everybody else, loud, yelling while I'm cracking him. And it wouldn't have mattered what Billy did. I can't tell you. You ask Stephen next time you see him how many times I heard this. Now, Stephen graduated, let's see, he's 6 years. So I graduated in 79. So in 85, I think Stephen graduated. The summer of 85, I cannot tell you how many times I'm, in a bar or in a place and someone taps me on the shoulder, turns me around and goes, "You Stephen Baldwin's brother?" And I knew right away. Stephen shot his mouth over. "My brother Daniel will kick your ass. Shut your mouth." Talk to the guy's girlfriend. And Stephen would get me in fights. But that summer, no, I kid you not. That summer, I got in 7 fights, like big motorcycle-looking guys going outside. I'm like, here we go, And so as I'm walking out, I'm looking which one I'm going to drop first and how it's going to go. Do I need to call guys up? Is there 9 of them? "You Stephen Baldwin's brother. Let's go." And Stephen, again, laughing his ass off. He didn't get hit. Nothing. He wasn't even there. And I had to pay. But he was my brother. It wouldn't really have mattered what happened. If I thought Stephen was going to take the shot from this guy, I was going to drop the guy for sure. That mentality is something that my father instilled in us, for sure. Ask questions later. Go ahead and beat your brother up afterwards. But you make sure your brother's okay, and you make sure you back your guy. Same as New Mexico, same as anything in the press. It wouldn't matter what happened. This is my brother. This is my sister. My sister and I, my older sister and I, don't talk that much anymore. I talk with my younger sister more than her. But if anything ever happened with one of her kids, or anything ever happened to one of the grandkids, I'd be on a plane. That would be it. You wouldn't have to ask anything else. It's my sister. So I think some of that blind unity and blind faith has been lost over the years. And I get that you have children, you have your own family that you have to look out for priority-wise. I understand that, but not when it really comes down to it. If it really comes down to it, you got to back each other up. I don't know you can teach that. I'm not sure you can teach it. I think either you hear about it, you live it for a while, and then it's who you are, or it's not.
Yeah, my dad's, I told this story 2 months ago. My dad's sister died 2 months ago. And one thing about my dad and his 4 total siblings, he's the oldest son, his sister was the oldest, and his 2 younger sons, brothers. So never once, Daniel, did they throw each other under the bus. Never once. They always got along. It's like our house was we were always happy. We were always happy. Not the same on the other side of the family, but these guys were relentlessly united on the way they did it. It's not easy to do because it's ambition, it's competition, and nobody did anything big with their lives. So it's not like it was a super competitive family where one is outdoing the other. No one. My dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store. My aunt, ended up working at the embassy in Iran. If you've ever seen the movie Argo, and when they came and they shut down the embassy in Iran, she was in there. She ended up marrying a Marine and moved to Chicago. My uncle, youngest brother of his, youngest uncle, he was the smartest guy, never got anything done. He was 70% Johnny. He would always finish the project 70%, leave 30%, go to the next thing. And the next thing, he never finished, always started it. And then the other one was a great poker card player who worked for Paycon, a car company in Iran, who knew every single auto parts number, but he was a sarcastic SOB and funny as hell. Yogi Berra type of funny. Not the kind of funny like you think like, but a different kind of funny.
Right.
These guys had each other's back, and it was very interesting to see, no matter what anybody has ever said, he kept a great relationship with me, my dad did, but he also kept a very good relationship with his siblings. I've never seen that. And I wonder if a part of it was the sacrifice comes at nobody accomplishing anything massive together because there is no competition, or does it come because it's not driven based on ambition? Like, which of you guys is going to do this first? Like the Kennedys. Who's going to be a president first? Who's going to do this first? That's steering the pot a little bit. Does that create a bit of friction between the siblings? Who knows? But to me, as somebody like the other day, going back to what your wife said to you, my son, Jennifer's like, hey, babe, such and such was a little bit disrespectful. I said, how was he? Here's what he said. Huh. All right. And this was like the third time in 2 days. I didn't like it. I went and picked him up. And I said, let's go for a drive. We're driving. I said, can I ask you a question? Yeah. What makes you think you can talk to your mother that way? I said, do you realize she's your mother, but she's my wife? You disrespect my wife one more time, we're going to have a problem. And he looked at me in the weirdest way. I was like, damn, I disrespected his wife.
Right.
And he was kind of like, I never thought about it that way before. Mm-hmm. She is your wife first. I said, she's my wife. I said, a stranger disrespects my wife. You know what I would do to them? I said, you're lucky you're my son, but don't you ever disrespect my wife. So you understand me? He said, yes. I said, are we good? Yes. When we get home, you go talk to your mother. But when it comes down to my wife, never cross the line again. I totally got it. Those moments that we have, you had with your pops, you had with your mom. Hey, go say hi, take the picture with them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take any more energy to be nice. Those small little lines, right, of how you build those values. Mm-hmm. But no, at the end of the day, as a guy that's got 4 kids myself, I think you got 6, right, if I'm not mistaken, mm-hmm. right? You're at 6, and your parents had 6 as well, so you have the same amount that they did. You want to see the siblings come together, especially with the history that you guys got. There's certain last names that have names. Like, we don't have to agree politically. I don't have to sit there and say, I'm a freaking Alec Baldwin fan. I'm a fan of seeing the family come together. I don't have a lot of things that I agree with on Andrew Cuomo politically. Chris Cuomo, maybe a couple things we sit there and talk about. You know what? Family-wise, Mario, your father played a big role. I love how close these two brothers are to each other. I don't have to agree with you politically. I just want to see that part, family-wise. But anyways, brother, I really enjoyed this. This was fantastic, truly. I appreciate you coming on. And I'm sure when this comes out, Steven's going to text me. Let me tell you, it's going to be funny just going through that process.
Listen, I'm already going to get it from all of them. This may be the first time I hear from any of my brothers because of this.
Well, if that happens, man, I'd love to see that for you guys. You guys independently, you guys do your own thing together. That's what matters because family's important. We're aging. I look at my hands. I'm like, I'm 46 now. Just yesterday, I was 21. I'm 40. This didn't look like this 25 years ago. It's going like this. This, it's going, bro. It's not even a zero sympathy for it. No matter how nice we are, you're aging.
We went with the my wife's family to Myrtle Beach for Thanksgiving. I brought my 2 daughters, my son, my wife, and saw her dad's side and her sister and everything. And so they're one brother, JUCO basketball player, and he said, "Yeah, we're gonna go." I went, "Let's go hoop." So I get out there with this kid and some of their friends and everything, and boy, 64. And so we ended up playing king in his court at the end. Winner is the king. And of course, 2 3-pointers at the very end, and I win. And so I get to walk out amongst these 25, 22, 19-year-old basketball players and say, I'm the king. The next day, I could barely stand up. No. I mean, there was literally moments where I knew I was going to hurt myself, and I dove at the ball. I couldn't move. My wife's laughing at me going, you had to go prove your point.
Yeah, the pride of competition.
Man,
I get it. But listen, again, if it happens, fantastic. I'd be more than happy to see the picture of all you guys posting together, spending time together. Family's very important. Anyways, my man, really enjoyed. Appreciate you, brother. Yes.
Appreciate
God bless.
You. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write ever. fiction book to write. And while I finished this book a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me and he read the book. And afterwards was like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape and he gets recruited to a secret society. Well, when you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time. And they test you. There's unique tests that they have at the society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one, but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So, I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're gonna enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm gonna put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review.